China. The world's oldest civilization was born here. Thousands of years later, it is one of the world's chess powerhouses. For most of the past 30 years, China has held the most prestigious title in women's chess. The legacy of the Women's World Championship is rich. Menchik, Gaprindashvili and Chibudanitsa, Kosteniuk, Si Jun and Ho Yifan. Now, three-time world champion Ju Wenjun is defending her title once more. After vanquishing the likes of Katerina Lagno and Alexandra Goryashkina, another rival awaits. Challenger Lei Tingjie had to defeat 3 grandmasters in matches herself to get here. In the first 2 rounds of the candidates, she took on sisters Maria and Anna Muzichuk and won. Then in the final, she beat former world champion Tang Zhongyi.
And that's it!
Resignation! Lei Tingjie, the winner of the 2023 Candidates Finals.
Will Ju Wenjun defend, or will we have a first-time champion, Lei Tingjie? Half the match is in Ju's hometown of Shanghai, half the match in Chongqing, where Lei hails from. Who will win and claim their share of the €500,000 prize fund? Welcome to the official broadcast of the 2023 FIDE Women's Chess Championship. Hello everyone and welcome to Game 10 of the Women's World Championship, and the temperature is rising in Chongqing as we reach the final stages. With only 3 games left, this is becoming an epic battle of nerves and endurance. Nothing can separate the challenger Lei Tingjie and reigning Women's World Champion Ju Wenjun. But will that all change today? As we see there, the players, they are about to arrive at the board. They're about to play some magnificent chess, and we are here all waiting for that moment. I'm your host, International Master Jovanka Hauska, and it's a great pleasure to be once more joined by someone who has won nearly every tournament, every title there is in women's chess. She's been Women's World Champion, she's been Women's World Rapid Champion, and of course, 2021 World Cup winner. It's none other than Grandmaster Alexandra Kosteniuk. Alexandra, good morning.
Good morning, Jovanka. What a long introduction. Thank you so much. Well, I am as excited as you are. The match is getting closer to its final, and it's just 4 games that left. Is the destiny of the match going to be decided during those 4 games, or are we going to witness a tiebreak? What are your predictions, Jovanka?
It's very, very close, and it's all going to be dependent on the nerves of the players today and, of course, in the next 2 games remaining. I actually think we are kind of gearing up towards tie breaks, just like we saw in the match between Ding and Nepomniachtchi, and that would be spectacular if that happened. And, of course, we started the tournament, and that felt like a long time ago. It might have been a new lifetime, but here we see it. The match did begin in Shanghai, and it was a very close start. But of course, Lei Tingjie, in a momentous victory in Game 5, she took the lead, and she was 1 point ahead. And then the match moved over to Chongqing, and there it became the Ju Wenjun show. It's somehow Ju Wenjun, the reigning Women's World Champion. She leveled up. She figured out a strategy to unnerve Lei Tingjie, and in Game 8, she got the momentous comeback that she so wanted. And there we are, Game 10, and the match is even. What do you think, Alexandra? Were you following games 7 to 9?
Yes, of course. I was following these games, and your wonderful commentary was Judith Polgar. I couldn't miss that. And what can I say? It seems that Ju Wenjun completely changed her strategy. She started playing unexpected openings, surprising her opponent game after game. And since this strategy worked out pretty well for her, I'm sure we're gonna see something similar in today's game, something putting her opponent straight out of the opening, just probably because of the fact that Lei Tingjie seems so well prepared in all like classical openings, if we may say so. Then yeah, Ju tried something else and it seems to be working for her. Well, at least in the last 3 games she was the one putting pressure onto her opponent, winning back, leveling the score. So I expect to see something new and never played before in this game as well.
That's exactly what I'm expecting as well. I mean, it's been such an effective strategy, as you highlighted, just to become a moving target, just to keep switching, ducking, diving, playing new openings. And the big question, though, is how will Ju Wenjun launch that first surprise? I mean, will she already change up her first move, as she's been doing very effectively in the last 3 games? Or will she leave that surprise for a later part, maybe move 3, let's just say?
Yeah, well, I still don't expect to see the first e4, right? Because she's been sticking to some kind of closed openings. And so, and I think generally closed openings there give you a possibility for longer play, because when you play e4, it kind of it's an immediate battle, right? It's straight away from the first move on, but it can lead to pieces being exchanged pretty fast and to some like long theoretical lines that quite hard to avoid. Well, if you play d4 or like knight f3 c4, something like that, it's a more positional approach, less concrete, and that means that you can play something similar that actually led Ju Wenjun to victory, right? Something was like small, tiny moves, b3, g3, like not diving directly into those complications.
And there we did see the dignitaries. They came and made a move on the board, and I was trying to figure out the move. I think it might have been c4. Maybe we might see
it was
that
d4, d5 on the board,
but
yeah, I'm not sure whether it's what we're gonna see.
Well, definitely. We did see Lei Tingjie. She, as always, full of expressions. She turned, gave a big smile. And there we see her looking up at the ceiling, getting ready for game 10. Does she look nervous to you? Does she look worried?
Well, she looks ready to start. She looks ready to start. It's always hard to, of course, to guess what a player feels. I mean, just telling by her expressions, because, well, we're all good actors in a way, all right? We can make our opponent and the public believe in certain things, but what is going on inside her head and body, it's hard to say. We should also keep in mind that it's game 10, so the fatigue should kind of add up, right? We haven't been really talked about it, but I think it's the right point already to mention that.
And of course, this match is a marathon, basically. It's the best of 12 games. The first one to 6.5 points will win. It is 1 point for a win, half a point for a draw. And this is what is making the situation very tense and all the games very cagey and full of suspense. No draw offers allowed before move 40. And of course, if the match is still tied after 12 games, there will be tie breaks to decide who will be Women's World Champion. Will it continue to be 3-time back-to-back reigning Women's World Champion Ju Wenjun, or will we see a new Women's World Champion in Lei Tingjie? That is the big question.
Exactly.
And Ju Wenjun, the players do have 3 games, and Ju Wenjun will have now 2 whites. Does this make her, does it give her a slight advantage?
I think so, yeah, it's a slight advantage, but again, it's going to depend a lot on this game, how this one is going to end, it's hard to say in the match. I mean, anything can happen. I think the players and their teams, they just take it game by game, move by move. Of course, like by the game 12, it's going, I mean, they're going to consider a possible tiebreak, but it's still too early, I think, to contemplate on that, because so many things can happen during those games. And we see the first knight f3, so like first slight surprise, if we may name it. So, and yes, I was saying, there are many tiny small moves that just means that white want to, to play a long game. They don't have something, they don't want to win straight away out of the opening. They just want to play on.
And we do see Lei Tingjie change from playing pawn to d5, as she did in famous game 8. She's now just developed a knight. For a second, I actually thought she might pick up the c pawn and say, would you like to play a Sicilian? But nope, she instead has chosen to keep everything flexible and develop the knight. So this means that maybe she is looking to fianchetto her dark square bishop.
Yeah, she may play g6, but I think that may follow in case white plays g3, right? So for the moment, she's waiting. Like, it's a very flexible move order, right? Knight f3, knight f6, because we still may see something very close to queen's gambit structures, but this game may also turn into a completely different direction, with the players fianchetting their bishops, like g3, g6 at some point. Also, c4 and different transpositions to English openings may also happen. So quite a very interesting crossroad. Too early to say at the moment what opening we're gonna see, because it's like the first moves, they don't reveal us that quite yet. Still need some patience. And we see that Ju Wenjun, yes, she's choosing because this knight f6, it does change quite a lot of things, because in some of the lines, right, in the previous games, we saw Lei playing like d5, c5, e6, all this Tarash. And what is it like? Does it change a lot, those knights on f6? Whether Ju Wenjun may get something that she was hoping to get in her previous games, but she was not like allowed to, by first d5 and then c5. And because of the fact that black already played a knight f6, it may like give her this chance. So we'll see.
We will definitely see, because knight f6 was not played in game 8. The analysis board shows exactly what happened at that game. But instead, after knight f3, knight f6, this is the game situation. Ju Wenjun is considering on choosing what she will play. She is not out of theory just yet.
It may look like it, yes, sometimes that players take so long, contemplating on their first moves, but in fact they're like playing with all those move orders, with those small nuances, and there's so much theory nowadays that sometimes you really need to take your time to be able to stay afloat.
Yeah, and still waiting for Ju Wenjun to make a decision, and we've highlighted she might want to play g3 and develop the light square bishop to g2. That's something that Ju Wenjun has done in the past. She's also played for c4 ideas, again just staking that claim in the center before committing to where she would put this light square bishop. And of course she could take it back into the mainstream. She did this before by also playing d4. But Lei Tingjie has been very well prepared when she's opened up with the queen's pawn. So it's unlikely that she will pick up the queen's pawn. is there anything else that she can do? I guess she could also play b3. And okay, what do we see? We see c4 on the board.
Okay, so I expect to see e6, or there is a possibility of c5 as well. I mean, e6, yeah. So now, like in case Ju Wenjun plays d4, we might see d5, and that's, I think, exactly the opening we saw in the first game. So after d4, d5, in the first game where Ju Wenjun had white pieces, knight c3, she played. There were several other games, right? C5 in one of the games,
C5,
and d takes
and
c4.
pawn takes pawn. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and well, we
E3
have the
instead.
change e3, and I'm expecting Lei Tingjie to open up with d5.
And
There you
then we
go.
might see b3.
I think we will see b3.
Well, d4 is also possible, and the reason behind this e3 move is to protect the pawn on c4, right? So as simple as that. So black doesn't have a possibility to get into this Vienna gambit, and if black plays c5, well, probably Ju Wenjun did prepare something there.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that Lei Tingjie, she really favors c5. I think she's done it in every single game where she can. c5, there you go. I mean, if Ju Wenjun has not prepared this line, then it's been bad preparation, but I fully expect that Ju Wenjun has an idea here.
Well, of course, I mean, and why not to put your pawn onto c5, right? Because there it helps you to battle for the center. Black considers at some point to play d4 if she has a chance, like to close this bishop. We'll see, just like starting. I know that b3 has become incredibly popular after some courses on Chessable. And there were many players advocating for this move, for this like flexible move, because again, even though white didn't play d4 for the moment, it doesn't mean that she is not going to make this move. She may play it at any point, right, even now, or she may refrain and do something else.
So yeah, in this particular position, I can see that white is already at the crossroads, because if you do play a move like bishop e2, then okay, just pull it up. d4 is the main move, and the whole point is that you grab the space, and if black is allowed to reinforce the center with e5 and develop the pieces, and just manages to maintain that harmony, then of course black will stand better in terms of space. But that's why Ju Wenjun, she chose not to play bishop e2 and instead took the pawn on d5. And Lei Tingjie, she's well prepared as always. She did play pawn takes pawn in the center.
Okay, so the bishop is going to be developed onto b5, I believe. That's what idea. Well, I mean, now bishop e2 is still possible, but it looks a little bit passive at this. No, it is on the board.
Bishop e2.
Yeah, bishop e2.
No, but bishop b5 is the main move. It's definitely the main move. And instead, bishop e2 choosing her first, perhaps, surprise of the match. And she's playing, not the match, the game is what I wanted to say. And bishop e2 played, and Lei Tingjie playing very fast, as always, a6.
Yeah, indicating
but hang on a second. That's a new move.
Is it? I mean, let
yeah,
me
not according
check it
to
out.
my database.
I would be pretty surprised.
No, it's not. It's not a new move. It was number 3. It's not number first choice. The first choice is simply to go bishop d6. My bad.
Okay, well, the latest game in my database that I see with this move was played. It's a blitz game between Vincent Keimer and Levon Aranyan, played this year, and there were several other games as well. So we're still in the theory books, if we may say so. Antonetta Stefanova played this line with white as well. pretty recently in the European Championship 2022. So still, well, we know for sure that Lei Tingjie is playing according to her preparation. She's not this kind of a player who hides it, right? There are certain players who prefer, even if they know all those theoretical lines, just to stop, to think over, and like maybe make their opponents believe that they're out of the home preparation. But Lei usually plays, if she knows the moves, she plays them out pretty fast. And she starts thinking only at the point when she's not sure anymore and she hasn't looked at the certain position. So for the moment, she is in her books.
Yes, and she hasn't been surprised. And as you've indicated, the speed is there. And Ju Wenjun is the one who's being cautious and taking her time. After a6, I can see the most popular move and the most logical move to my eyes is to play d4.
Yes, exactly.
And I was just wondering, if you don't play d4, will black themselves play d4?
Yeah, it's always an option. For example, what's going to happen if white castles? Because if you play d4 here, like the main concern that white may have is that black is going to capture on d4, c takes d4, and then after knight takes d4, like d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, black is going to give a check on b4, bishop b4 check. And in the game of Antoaneta Stefano, for example, I mean, you can of course cover with your bishop to c3, but that kind of, I don't think white wants to exchange this bishop because it looks so beautiful on this long diagonal, so you want to keep it on the board. But since you cannot really cover with your knight because of this annoying pin and knight e4 possible, the only other choice left is to play king to f1. And that's exactly what Antoaneta did. It's kind of also sad to lose a possibility to castle, but white's idea in that game was that after a short side castle, she just played h4. And so she decided to use the rook on the h file to support the pawn. And well, some game began and she won in the end. But I don't think that Ju Wenjun is ready to play so creatively because, well, okay, the king on f1 is kind of risky in a way.
It is risky. It is modern day chess though, but if it were Lei Tingjie playing with the white pieces, I would say absolutely. This is what Lei Tingjie has prepared. But Ju Wenjun is much more classical. She likes to follow the opening rules, get your king developed, and put it into safety, and then just get the game and continue from there. So I'm anticipating that we are not going to see d4 as you showed us because of this check, but we're probably going to see castles, and then the point of a6 becomes clear because the only reason for this move is, I guess, if you go d4, but hang on a second,
d4 is on the board.
Commentators curse. I've very confidently said one thing and of course something else has happened, but d4 has been played. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't expect to see a king f1 after knight takes d4, bishop to b4. Well, it just seems that white is going to play bishop c3 after all, and probably Ju Wenjun is fine with this structure because the structure we're gonna see after all those exchanges, like c takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop b4, bishop c3, then bishop takes c3, knight takes c3. It's the structure with the isolated pawn on d5, right? And we know that in long term it's a weakness, a positional weakness. Whether it can be exploited or not, it's another question. and but definitely it gives white a long-term advantage, a small positional plus, but as we've seen in this match, Ju Wenjun is fine with this long positional pluses, even like the slightest ones. Well, she believes in herself, and she believes in long games.
She certainly does believe in long games, and also she's had a lot of experience with match play because, of course, she beat Tang Zhongyi in 2018, she beat Alexandra Goryachkina in 2020, and in that match went to tie breaks. So she has experience with playing the long game. She also knows exactly mentally what it takes to become Women's World Champion. And I suspect that Ju Wenjun has taken this long game approach simply to tire out her opponent. But I think in some ways this can be a little bit risky because Ju Wenjun isn't the more experienced player of the two. She's the older player, and traditionally we have this concept that, you know, the younger player has more energy, is actually got more energy to last for the whole marathon, shall we say. But
yeah, but at the same time, we should see that Lei is a more energetical player, right? In a way, we've talked a lot about her expressions, about her postures, attitude, and body language, and so on. But it all takes up energy. So even though she's younger, but because of her, her special abilities, she might just require more energy. That's what I want to say. Yeah. She's more energy consuming, and while Ju Wenjun is a quieter, right? We've talked about introvert and extrovert playing a match, but that also might mean that Ju Wenjun doesn't require as much energy as her opponent, and again, it may be quite a big and significant advantage for Ju Wenjun in a long match. She's just calmer, and it's how her body feels and lives, yeah. And it's just so also good for those long matches. Yeah,
I agree. And also, if we think about it, you know, Ju Wenjun, obviously being experienced in match play, she would have understood that there were some lessons to have learned from her previous. Maybe she worked too hard, maybe she didn't work smart enough, and in this match she will be able to use all those previous experience to conserve the energy, to know exactly how to rest and recuperate. Whereas Lei Tingjie, I'm sure, she's so buzzed with being the challenger that, you know, she's worked incredibly hard in the run-up to this match, maybe worked too hard, maybe hasn't given herself enough time, and as the match draws to its conclusion and we've had these long, lengthy games, every single game has been tense, it's been full of emotion, it's been full of suspense, and I'll be honest with you, Alexandra, I am feeling it as I'm just the commentator. Right. And I can't even imagine what it's been like for the players who've been thinking about this particular moment for such a long time.
Yeah, me neither. I've never played such a long match, facing just one opponent day after day, and needing to play against the same player over and over. So it must be exhausting. But again, nothing has been decided yet, right? They started with the even scores, they continue with the even scores, and of course the tension grows, the nervous pressure grows. It's hard, but these players, that's why they're there. They can handle this pressure, and they should handle this pressure if they want to get this crown.
Yeah. Ultimately, the strongest person will win, and we are waiting for Ju Wenjun to come to a choice. She has the possibility of playing king to f1 with the idea of developing and perhaps pushing pawns on the king side, and instead we were just going to mention the second possibility, which is simply to play against this d5 isolated queen's pawn and offer trade of bishops. And That indeed happens, and Lei Tingjie, quick as a whippet, that fast little dog, and just retreats the bishop back to d6.
Yeah, you know, while we were talking, I checked like all the games that have been played, and actually, like bishop d6 is one of the main moves. The other move that was played pretty often was queen to a5, and bishop takes c3 seems to be as a big inaccuracy. In fact, well, the engine starts to give a very big, pretty big advantage to white after this exchange. Bishop takes c3, knight takes c3, and actually nobody exchanged on c3 out of 20 or even more games played with this move order and position. Nobody made this positional mistake, so black did keep the bishop on the board in most of the games. And yes, we know if you have an isolated pawn, if you're playing with it, you should keep as many pieces on the board as possible, because even though an isolated pawn is like a weakness and long-term weakness, but it also, like, dynamically it can give you some extra possibilities, and you should rely and play for them. And that's exactly what's happening. And the very first game in my database with this exact position, knight d2 and castle, was played in 1973 between Tigran Petrosyan and Alexander Belявsky. So a long time ago, in some Soviet championship, and Tigran Petrosyan won that game. So that was exactly the position that we're witnessing right now.
In this position, I guess Ju Wenjun is simply deciding whether to castle, whether to go queen c2. The main thing, though, is just to get the king to safety. And as you've highlighted, you do have to be aware of the dynamic potentials. And we do see castles played, the most natural move. And do you know how that classic game between Tigran Petrosyan and Belявsky continued?
Well, of course I know, because I have my database in front of me. So that makes me very, very smart. Belявsky retreated his bishop to c7. Probably like getting ready to play queen d6 at some point. And after bishop to c7, that was a very interesting decision, played by white. Like he just captured, Petrosyan just captured on c6, so he changed the structure, right? He, instead of this isolated pawn, there was a spare c6 d5 pawns pair on the board, and after knight takes c6, b takes c6, he just played queen to c2, and he stabilized, like, kind of blockaded this pair by playing bishop c2 and queen c2 and bishop d4, and later on he won that game. So they exchanged a few pieces, went on to the endgame where his bishop was standing beautifully on d4. And then he just doubled, I believe, his rooks on the c file. Yeah, that's exactly what he did, and he won. He won that endgame.
Pressure, yeah. And when it comes to these hanging pawns, as they're called, then it's all about controlling their movement and controlling how they stand. So if you do manage to get bishop on d4, then this is fabulous dark square strategy. One thing that you always have to worry about, and I see that Ju Wenjun has made the move rook e8, is that please, if you are playing against the isolated pawn, do not underestimate the dynamic possibilities that your opponent will have towards the king, because you take a look at those two raking bishops. There is also a knight that can spring forward to e4 and maybe even to g4 at times. And of course, let's not forget this one that can jump into e5. So Lei Tingjie has to play very dynamically. She can't just sit back and watch Ju Wenjun improve her position.
Yes, exactly. So Lei did play rook e8, and actually I demonstrated, right, one of the main white's ideas. Well, maybe not main, but of like very important white's ideas to have a look and to think about in this position is to capture on c6, and after bishop d4, like blockading this pair of hanging pawns. While after rook e8, it doesn't quite work, because here if you play bishop d4, I suppose black is going to play c5, and that's another position. Those pawns are not stopped, they are in constant movement. Bishop b7, d4 may appear on the board, so there is some pressure onto white's position, and that's why black keeps the bishop on d6, and that's why we can now say that bishop c7, what Belevsky did, was inaccuracy. So now white, I don't expect to see knight takes c6 immediately. White might try to prepare this move by playing rook c1, for example, but the problem behind that move is that there is bishop a3 possibility. So if white plays rook c1, black can play bishop a3. If white like retreats the rook back, then the bishop of course will get back. Of course white can play rook b1, but in that case after rook, instead of rook a1, but in that case black can consider capturing on d4 and playing bishop f5. So this rook, it's not so easy to put it onto c1 and prepare knight c6 and bishop d4. So there are some counter ideas for black, but as you mentioned, it's all about dynamic. You cannot just make small moves without ideas. You really need to work against white's plan and not let white consolidate, not let white just exchange and blockade all the pawns she wants.
Yeah, and just looking at my limited database, and I can see that maybe white wants to play rook c1, but because of this bishop a3 move, it's not possible. And so this is perhaps why two very strong players, Kismatulin and who else played it? They actually just simply played bishop b2 after this, getting ready to just get that C line cleared.
Right.
Yeah, and I can see Lenderman has played it. Shekachev. Sorry, I'm not so good at these long Russian names.
Difficult to pronounce names. Yeah, I can feel it. But my main question, because I see those games and I see bishop b2 played in some of the games, in two of them, black actually after bishop b2, they did retreat the bishop. One player retreated it to c7, the other played bishop to b8, but I think in that case we can still get back to this Petrosian idea of capturing on c6 and playing rook c1. Although black has this rook c1, for example, queen d6, right, move, that's why they retreated the bishop. The first
just
place.
To show. Just to show, if you do go bishop d4,
yeah, you always have to watch out for your opponent's threats, right? As you talked about it, like checks, takes, and like direct threats. Always, have to have this alarm buzzing. So g3, feels like almost maybe not an obligation. Knight f3 was still possible. Yeah, bishop b2, by the way, is on the board. So and here is a very interesting moment, because this position has not been played. So nobody after bishop c7 or bishop b8, white didn't capture on c6. But I still wonder whether it's a possibility. Of course, when you play g3, your heart like kind of trembles a little bit because of those weakened white squares, but you see your light squared bishop on e2, and you believe that it can be transferred somewhere to g2, and then again those hanging pawns, you just hope to put pressure onto them. But again, bishop c7, bishop b8, is it necessary? can't black play something else instead? What are other options here in this position for black?
Yeah, that is a big question. Bishop c7 is very thematic because you often see this position with colors reversed, and there are some few like important ideas that you kind of came across, and one of them was setting up this pawn formation of something I call the wall. And yes, it makes you nervous when you have your pawns and like you said, those light squares around the king are weak. But on the other hand, you know that you are definitely blocking this bishop and any checkmating ideas that are coming your way. So that's one you need to put in your memory banks when you're playing this type of position with the white pieces, or when you have it with the colors reversed. Say white has the isolated pawn, then you're defending against it with the black pieces. And also I want bishop, this idea of setting up the battery is also very common. Other ideas, jumping in with the knight to e4, but I don't think anyone has tried that. Or another one is just you're a bit stuck with this light square bishop. You don't have a good square for it. So yeah, I'm trying to get that one out and I can't see a square. So maybe I will leave that decision
Bishop
for a later
d7
stage.
is a possibility, yeah.
Bishop d7, yeah, but it kind of does also feel not very incisive, especially because it blocks the queen from getting to the d6 square. So I think bishop c7 is a very natural move. I prefer bishop c7 over bishop b8 because bishop b8 somehow blocks in the rook, and the rook on a8 might want to swing towards the center at some stage.
Yes, but I was just wondering whether you really have to, retreat your bishop, because when you retreat, as I indicated, it may help white to capture on c6, play rook c1 and to blockade those pawns. Well, maybe I can just wait. I mean, what is white's next move? Because we know that after rook to c1, there are ideas connected with knight takes d4 and bishop a3. And what is white going to do? So that probably why bishop d7 is not that bad after all. Just to see and wait, to make this one small waiting move and see white's plan, which actually can be connected with playing a3, something small like that.
And I just also remembered that I had suggested another move, knight to e5. That also has been played before, and I feel that maybe that one is more in Lei Tingjie style. Put the knight in the center, just get rid of these knight take knights possibilities and start thinking or just threatening to your opponent that, hey, my pieces are coming your way.
Very aggressive approach.
Definitely. And we are reaching the close to an opening today, which is very dynamic and very strategical at the same time. It's a battle between Lei Tingjie's dynamic possibilities, where she is thinking about how she is going to continue the rest of the opening, whereas Lei Tingjie, Ju Wenjun has the long-term possibilities. It's going to be such an interesting clash. We are 13 moves in and things are brewing very nicely for a fight. And in the meantime, we're going to take a very short break, but don't go anywhere because we'll be back with all the action in just a few minutes.
Hi, I'm Grandmaster Anish Giri and welcome to Left-Hand Repertoire's 1e4. The so-called Latvian gambit is horrible. F5, knight takes e5. This is not how chess is played. He played too many moves with pawns and the queen and didn't develop his light pieces. And if knight e4, this is a very important trick to remember. Many people fall for it actually. Knight to b5, brilliant idea. ab and queen g7, and after rook f8, bishop h6, queen c5 and f3, and surprisingly, queen f2 is almost checkmate, but it's not. If your opponent wants to be solid, we go for aggressive for the kill. If your opponent wants us to go for the kill, we play simple chess and just use the fact that we have more space in the center, clear-cut plans, and nothing to worry about.
What's the best way to follow any chess event from the Champions Chess Tour to the Candidates, Speed Chess Championship, Title Tuesday, FIDE World Championship, and so much more? Chess.com/events has all of the top chess tournaments played both over the board and online. Analyze and review games from the world's greatest players with live commentary, cloud analysis, opening explorer, and table bases. Find all the key event information, including schedules, prizes, results, news reports, player bios, tie breaks, and more. Even compete by voting for your predicted results. Explore chess.com/events today on web or with our iOS and Android apps and experience chess like never before.
I didn't think about winning or defending the goal. I just think we're still a strong team and hopefully we can play our best.
Hello everyone, and we are back, and it's all about reigning women's world champion, 3-time back-to-back champion. She earned the title in 2018 and also just kept it. She defended it a few months later, and now we see her. Well, she is facing challenger Lei Tingjie in Lei Tingjie's home city of Chongqing. And in that bustling metropolis, it is going to be all about a clash of styles, a clash of strategy. It will be all about whether Ju Wenjun can retain her positional advantage of playing against Black's weak pawn in the middle against Lei Tingjie's dynamism. And I feel that this game is very appropriate because we've seen Ju Wenjun throughout the whole match. It's all been about those small positional factors. It's all been about nurturing those small advantages. And for Lei Tingjie, it's been a lot more direct. And this is an appropriate clash in styles.
Yes, it's also all about nerves right now as the match final is approaching. Fewer and fewer games are left to play. 3, as I was told, because I announced about 4 games, but it's never enough. We feel it's never enough. But in fact, it's just 3 classical games left. And it makes me wonder, why to play a 12-game match if still everything will be decided in the last 2 games or even in the last 3. And but that's how those World Championships matches are being played. So just 3 games, no more a possibility to make a mistake, it feels. It's just fewer chances to correct it if you make one. And maybe a tiebreak if the score is even, if it's 6-6, and what we see on the board.
Yeah, if we do see a tiebreak, who do you hold as a favorite, Alexandra? Because you were mentioning to me before that Ju Wenjun, she's been World Rapid Champion, and she in fact has been a 2-time World Rapid Champion. She was in 2017 in Saudi Arabia, I think it was, and then in 2018 in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, but I still feel that it's very hard to compare a World Rapid Championship with a tiebreak for the classical world crown, because first of all the time control is different. In World Rapid we play 15 plus 10, while here it's 25 plus 10. It's a huge difference. It's almost a classical game. It's not a Rapid anymore. Why 15 is very closer, it's closer to Blitz, right, than to Classic. We used to play with 25 plus 10 all the time. But anyway, it's a different time control. It's a different responsibility, if I can say so, because in the World Rapid, even if you lose 1 game, there are gonna be 10 more games, right? While here, you just don't have this right to make a mistake. We saw what happened in Непомнящий День tiebreak, right? 1 mistake in 1 game and the match is over. And it doesn't matter, you've played for 1 month, but just 1 mistake on 10 seconds and that's it. And since the pressure is so different, it's the atmosphere, it cannot be compared, I think, with Rapid Championship. So of course Ju Wenjun is a very experienced, a very strong player with shorter time controls, but we can say the same about Lei Tingjie. She's also very good with shorter time controls, and it's gonna be all about handling your nerves and being able to not to crack under pressure, because it's gonna be enormous this pressure onto both these players. So we're gonna see, but still 2.5 games to go. 2.5 games to go. We've seen the opening. It went well for Black, and during the break, actually, I checked. I searched this position, and there were so many games, and I was so surprised. But in fact, this position did happen with white to move. So with an extra tempo for white. This exact position where many players played Rook C1, and even then, there were different results. While here it's Black to move. Does it change a lot? This extra, half a move advantage? I'm not sure. It's still about this isolated pawn, right, and about white being able to somehow simplify the position and stay with this small positional advantage, and with Black being able to neutralize, to not neutralize, but to somehow put this pressure and use these isolated pawns pluses.
Yeah, it is for white. It's a question of a long game. So general rule here is if white manages to trade off minor pieces, then the weakness of this pawn grows in significance. If black manages to kind of keep all 4 minor pieces on the board, then they will have the dynamic advantage. If they have 3 minor pieces, then still it's kind of in the balance. 2 minor pieces, already you're going to have to start suffering a little bit, and you need to gain activity in other ways. And there we see Lei Tingjie, the consequence of moving the knight from, let's after bishop d7, which is a nice developing move, also protecting the c6 knight. Ju Wenjun played knight to f3. The consequence is that the control on e4 has been released, and that's why Lei Tingjie jumps in with the knight. It's a nice active move. And now the ball is passed to Ju Wenjun, and she's being told, what should you play next? And I suspect that moves like rook c1, maybe your idea of a3 will come into play.
Yes, well, with the knight on f3 protecting the knight on d4, probably rook c1 straight away is a possibility. But you mentioned knight e4 plan like earlier, and if a white rook from f1 kind of leaves the square and gets to e1, then some ideas with knight takes f2 sacrifices start to be hanging in there. Maybe not immediately, because black still need to put more pressure onto e3 file, but it's the same ideas that we see pretty often with white in the same structure, where white has this isolated pawn on d4 and knight e5, rook e1, knight takes f7, like a very famous plan. So I don't expect to see white moving the rook from f1 while the knight is still on e4. And yeah, rook c1 seems to be more probable, but then again, I mean, black can start playing very aggressively and try to transfer her queen to h6, like queen f6, queen h6 might be a very interesting plan for black here, playing according to this isolated pawn structure, right? Trying to use all the possibilities that this pawn gives the position. And
you can just see that first the knight will come to e5 just to give the queen the f6 square, and then suddenly queen h6, and again there's horrible pressure on the h2 point. You really have to be looking out for all the sacrifices, and I always dedicate all my time to this stage of the game when I face this opening or the isolated queen's pawn. And then, when it comes to the endgame, if you get that far, it should be pretty simple. The position is quite clarified. But there's so many captures, so many attacking pieces. So you do need to tread very carefully. Use your time to calculate. And 94, like just to kind of highlight your point, like say for instance you do go rook e1 without thinking, and say queen e7 happens, you can kind of see that if you're still careless and you're thinking, well, bishop a3 is the plan. No, bishop a3 is not the plan, because there could be ideas of going knight takes f2. And okay, the evaluation bar doesn't like it because it's a computer and computers are not scared, but humans are scared.
Right. So black is definitely putting all her bets on this middle game, while white is just dreaming of reaching an end game. And I remember when I was like younger and playing, and my father was watching my games, and I lost to some of them because of my opponent creating some kind of attack, and my father was saying all the time, okay, if you would play an endgame, it would be great. But between an opening and an endgame, God have created a middle game. So he was very mad of me forgetting about my king's safety. So here, yeah, it's this exact moment between an opening and endgame. Unfortunately for White, middle game is in full swing. It's very hard to reach this end game, and of course Black will do everything that is in her power to keep those pieces on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are playing with an isolated queen's pawn, please do not make the same mistake I did. So I was telling Alexandra during the break that I played a similar position like this against David Howell. And I was analysing the game with the women's team captain at the time, John Spielman. He was like laughing at me. He was saying, Yovi, you literally did everything White wanted that to do. You traded off all the pieces. Yes, you might have been playing a stronger player, but that doesn't matter, because in this type of position, it's not about clarifications, it's not about simplifying the position, it's all about just creating those opportunities. So for instance, the knight can come to e5, maybe it will jump to g4, maybe you can have a queen to f6, h6. You've got to create the tension, you've got to get that deep dark forest where 2 + 2 = 5, as Tal famously said. And for White is just about kind of like holding firm and blocking all those threats and trying to make those trades to make the world a better place for them. I don't know why I started thinking of those lyrics, but I did.
Right, and that's why I don't like White's choice to put her knight onto f3. It just seems so easy with a knight on e4 for Black from now on. So if I were White, I would, try to keep my knight on d2, just out of safety reasons, and
so go back to
and do
this
something
position.
else, because
do something else.
Yeah, again, we discussed rook c1. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be working very well. Because of knight takes d4, and then if I capture with the bishop, there is bishop a3. But still, even this position, well, rook a1 should be moved to a1. But even this position seems to be much safer in a way than the position in the game, because I think after knight e4, Black reached, what she was playing for was Black. That's the exact situation Black is hoping for.
And these pieces are still on the board. There have been no trades, and the big question is how to connect the pieces and make them play purposely. Because you could play a3, which probably is a good move, or rook c1, I don't know, a3, and then still you have to answer. So for instance, rook c1, queen f6 could be coming.
And any move you make, basically queen f6 can be played, unless you protect your bishop on b2 somehow, but I don't see how you can protect it.
Yeah, because if knight takes knight, you have queen takes bishop, and oh dear, bad things are happening to the bishop on e2, and this knight on c6 is under attack. So queen f6 is coming your way, and Alexandra's idea of queen h6 with weaknesses happening. Remember, Black has these two raking bishops and a knight sitting pretty on e4, and another person gearing up to join the attack. There's a lot of arrows I've drawn.
Nice. When I was playing, Title Tuesday yesterday, some of my spectators were complaining that I don't draw enough arrows to show and indicate where my pieces go, what are the ideas, and say, come on, I have only 3 minutes, I'm not as good as Hikaru, to be able to draw arrows, to think about the position, to commentate. I'm just not as good as some of the streamers. Just takes so much practice, and just feels quite a different level to be able to do all of that. But
Yeah.
right now we're witnessing a classical game, so we have all the time in the world to draw those beautiful arrows and to indicate players' ideas. So that's great.
Yeah. I can sympathize with you. So sometimes I stream, and when I do, I find it very difficult to draw arrows, talk, engage with chat, play
Right.
good chess. Like
Right.
something is suffering, right? Usually
Usually it's bad
the
chess.
chess.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah. I remember the very first time I streamed in 2023, and I thought, oh, goodness me. I felt like quitting. I decided to do Title Tuesdays because I thought it's going to be good for my confidence, just to play these title players. And yeah, and I was like, has anyone ever like rage quit on their very first stream? And chat was very nice. They said, oh, the top players do it all the time, and I was like, oh, okay, that's good. I'll push on and I'll see how it goes.
But you always have an excuse that you lost because of your stream, not because of the way you actually play.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you play just badly, not because you play badly, but just because you streamed. So that's it's nice to have an excuse. I like that.
Okay, that's a good thing to have in mind, because I was just sitting there thinking, like, I'm just literally streaming my bad chess, and the intention was not to play bad. And will we see a rage quit today?
Very well connected.
Maybe. No, today's Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. Also, one of my downfalls when I play chess is I always forget what day it is.
Yeah, Talking Tuesday is behind us. My daughter keeps telling, "Oh, I'm sorry, you've been having this Talking Tuesday, and I called you. Oh, I'm sorry, you were busy." But actually, tomorrow is a big day. It's going to be the International Chess Day tomorrow, and the 20th of July, because it's the day where FIDE was founded, and it's been now celebrating for many years as the International Chess Day. And there are gonna be several arenas, 12 hours of arenas, streaming arenas for streamers. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think
Maybe
I'm going to
time
I'm
to-
going to pick those to those 2 hours, and I'm going to demonstrate my bad chess as usual. So nice way to celebrate Chess Day anyway.
I think so too. And talking about chess, of course, after this tournament finishes, after this World Championship match, we know that Ju Wenjun is gonna not go back home, but she's also she's going to go to Baku, to a tournament where you're playing, and you won the World Cup the last time it was there in Sochi, right?
Yeah, 2021, a great experience for me. Very hard to beat. I mean, just something unbelievable. You just usually dream of such a tournament happening in your career, because everything just was working so perfectly well. For me, it's a knockout event, so you never know what to expect, and you're actually ready to finish your tournament pretty fast, because there are so many great players, and like you're facing like so many strong players round after round, but I managed not only win, but not even play one tie-break match throughout the event, and it was just a dream come true scenario for me, and I was very happy. I am very happy that such a tournament, is a part of my career. And Ju Wenjun, of course, she's going to start to play starting from the second round, because the format of the World Cup has been slightly changed. So we see more players participating. There are possibilities to qualify for this World Cup via the Chess Olympiad. And meaning that the top rated players, they begin from round 2, similar to like different tennis tournaments. So Ju Wenjun's first game in Baku is going to be on August 2nd. she's gonna have some time to recover and prepare mentally for a completely different format. But of course, it will be such a delight to see her playing again after such a long pause due to this pandemic and her not being able to play abroad. So we'll see her in Baku.
We will see her in Baku, but what is very kind of curious about it is that, okay, you win the World Cup, you get a place on the candidates, and of course, the candidates tournaments will decide who is the challenger for the Women's World Championship match. So it's interesting that Ju Wenjun is playing in a tournament where she doesn't need to play. And also, let's remind ourselves that the runner-up of this match will get a direct spot into the candidates.
2024 candidates, that's gonna be played in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's and it's gonna be parallel, 2 candidates, men and women, which is exciting. I mean, it's those two are very, very interesting tournaments, like the most important tournaments of this whole qualifier cycle, where we find out name of the challenger. And yeah, it's gonna happen in April 2024 in Toronto. So, but the World Cup is not only about qualifying. Of course, there are three players are gonna qualify from 2023 FIDE Women's World Cup, and probably also 3. Let me check. Yeah, and also 3 players from FIDE, like overall Open World Cup. So quite a lot of just a very, very important start for many players, just a possibility to qualify for this 2024 candidates, because in the candidates there are only 8 players per tournament. It's very hard to get in, and in the women's cycle it's only via a different qualification tournament. It's not, you cannot be there is no spot for the top rated player in the world compared to the open cycle. So you really have to play somewhere. It's either the series of Grand Prix, which is already over. We know 2 names, Ekaterina Lagno and Alexandra Goryachkina qualified. We know that the runner-up, the player who loses in this match, is going to play in the 2024 candidates. Also, as I mentioned, there are going to be 3 players qualifying from the World Cup in Baku, and I believe 2 more players from the Grand Swiss at the end of the year in Isle of Man in October. And that's it. No more chances. So basically you have to try, well, if you're not the lucky one, if you're not already playing in China right now, the Grand Prix series is over, so there's just 2 tournaments left where you can actually qualify. But what is great, it's those tournaments, okay, World Cup, well, there are many players playing, right? Even lower rated players have a great chance to prove that rating means nothing. It just number of games played before, but they do have this chance to qualify from the World Cup and from the Grand Swiss. So looking forward to participating in these tournaments and seeing who's gonna be those players qualifying.
Yeah, and you're in good company as well, because Ju Wenjun will be playing, not Lei Tingjie, but also Magnus Carlsen will also be making an appearance in the Open World Cup. It used to be the case, I think it still is the case, that the Women's World Champion could play in the Open World Cup.
It's still a
still
possibility.
the case.
Yeah, and I think I once did play in 2008 when I won the Women's World Championship. At that time it was called what we call now World Cup, the same format. It used to be called a World Championship, and I did play in the Open World Cup World Championship after that. I don't remember whether it was called a World Championship or World Cup at that time, but since it was not played at the same time with Women's World Cup, I did play, yeah, in Khanty-Mansiysk. I think I lost to Shahryar Mamediyarov, if I'm not mistaken, in the first round.
Yeah, no, that's a tough start. Shahryar Mamediyarov is not really the person you want to be facing in round one. You need to warm up, and but anyhow, it's a good experience. And
Exactly.
and there we see we're 14 moves in, and we see that Ju Wenjun, as I see a comment in chat saying, will Ju be okay being down so much time? She's now under 50 minutes. She really is burning time on the clock. And this is the type of position where really both sides should have done their preparation at home. And by preparation, I don't necessarily mean moves. You definitely need to know how you're just going to put your pieces. Like, for instance, are you going to go Rook C1? How is Black going to attack with Queen F6, Queen H6, or do something else? Both sides do need to come up with answers. For Ju Wenjun, it's all about the defensive. You've got to curl up into that ball. So for instance, maybe go Rook C1. I saw chat did not like my A3 move, which was just just purely as suggested it, and they were like, no, it's such a bad move. And I was like, okay, Rook C1 certainly looks a lot more natural. Okay, so maybe whilst Ju Wenjun is thinking, let's do a deep dive into what she's concerned about. So Rook C1, for me, is the most natural move on the board. Rook E1, you don't really want to be playing because there could be possibilities, maybe the bishop coming to B4, and of course you'd let go of the connection to F2. So let's have a look at something like this, and it's difficult to suggest. I don't know, let's just go Rook C2, you know, just go, yay, knight takes knight is threatened. And I'm going to let you have everything, and I'm going to pin this. And already the evaluation bar has gone all the way in Black's favor. So this is like just kind of show everyone like how
Bishop H3 and knight F2 probably, right?
Yeah, Bishop H3. Yeah, that's one way how to break the position down. But no,
the eval bar doesn't like my.
No, because of knight b4 is the whole idea.
Oh.
So knight b4 and this rook doesn't have any squares. So you, okay, so okay, knight b4 is a problem. So in that case, there is no rook c2 to be played because of knight b4 ideas. And maybe this means that if Queen f6 is such a big problem and you can't Rook c1, Queen f6, and say you just go, I don't know what to suggest.
That's why Ju Wenjun is taking so much time, exactly, to think. I mean, because maybe she feels like, you know, play knight to d2 at some point again, before Rook c1.
Yeah, okay.
That just
Maybe do it now, right? Let's just say yes, we made a mistake. Queen h6, and can you do things like g3? And well, I guess knight e5. It does feel shaky. The knight is coming to e5, and maybe this knight is a huge problem.
But how does it change? Why doesn't the engine like bishop to h3? Because I like this idea, bishop h3, rook e1, knight takes f2.
Okay,
but
bishop h3. Somehow or other, it's okay. So I'm peeking, and it's saying that knight takes c6 is going to be sufficient.
Yeah, it just sacrifices this exchange, but it takes the pawn on c6. So let's say bishop takes f1, right? Or b takes c6, doesn't really matter. Yeah,
and then it's worried about knight takes f2 because so it wants this, and only now is this, it's saying that this is perhaps a touch better for white.
Okay, good to know. Two strong bishops, and Black's pawns are quite weak on a6, e4. Yeah, the bishop on b2 is amazing. Queen is getting to g4 probably, and will be it will be hard to protect everything. Okay, well, that's a very important thing to keep in mind for white.
It is super important. So after it says after moves like g3 that you can avoid all of this idea of knight takes knight by actually putting the knight on e5. And well, we have a move from
the knight went to
Ju Wenjun. So let me just refresh to get back to the game position, and there we see knight to d2 played. So more or less admitting that she's made a big mistake and giving black the possibility, well, giving black the knight e4 move for free.
Yes, maybe not like a very big mistake, but quite an inaccuracy, right? So she just gave up this precious time to black. She allowed Lei to put her knight onto e4, and now of course black can get back with her knight to f6 just to repeat the position, but I don't think it's gonna happen. It's gonna be a big favor for white. I think instead black can, you know, come up with some other unpleasant moves. Even knight to g5, okay, is never gonna be played, but what I want to demonstrate, like, let's say queen to h4, like, let's put this pressure onto h2. How white is gonna protect the pawn?
Yeah, and the big point, as Alexandra's highlighting, is oh no, the bishop and the queen are working very well, and checkmate is threatened. So yeah, you'll have to indulge me, Alexandra, because I do like showing checkmates.
That's great. Me too.
And so queen h4. So we have to go. We take a step back with the knight. I was going to suggest g3, but g3 already you can see some sacrifices happening with.
Yeah, but I think that's a move to make anyway. Even though they look scary, but you just want to make sure they don't work, or something like knight takes g3, right?
Then h takes g3.
Or
yeah,
h takes G3.
I didn't want this to be loose at the end of it, and then I was hoping that a knight will come to f3 and cover the h2 square, and I would say, and I say this with hesitation, but I think so.
Right. Yeah, after h takes g3, bishop takes g3, you can like go knight to f3 or and then let's show that after queen to h3, for example, you can simply capture on g3, which seems to be a very important move to make, and you have this knight h2, right, covering
so this is after the sacrifice, h takes g3.
Because sometimes when we analyze position, we look at the val bar and kind of stop the line, but in fact when you're calculating it in your game, you really need to prolong and to make sure that you don't know the evaluation. Sometimes you feel it that okay, this attack should not be working, but still you need to calculate till the end, like queen h3, knight h2, and now I think you can stop it and like say that white is okay.
And all the important squares are covered, right? The bishop can't get to f5, can't get to g4, and there's just no way. Also the rook can make a transfer, because again, every single square that it wants to get to, it's just covered. So that one's safe for white. But g3 is again a very committal move, and as you indicated, these light squares are weak, and black has options. You can go queen h3, you can also go queen h6, just to keep the h3 square for the bishop. And again, the knight is going to come to e5 and start asking some questions to these light squares.
Yeah, exactly. That's why this knight can be captured at some point if it's very annoying.
It might have to be captured. Like, say, for instance, I don't know where to put the queen, h6 or h...
Well, I would say
h3.
h6, because after queen to h3, and the bishop on d6 is not protected, meaning that after knight takes e4, you have to capture with your rook. And usually after knight takes e4, you want to capture with your pawn.
Yeah.
But even here, like if I capture knight takes e4, d takes e4, okay, there are no more isolated pawns on the board, but let's say knight takes e6, because I think I have to, otherwise knight e5 is gonna come. And this position, okay, it doesn't look dangerous anymore, right? It looks pretty safe. Well, maybe also very close to equal, because even though the bishop on b2 seems to be doing great compared to the bishop on c6, which is kind of looking at its own pawn, but at the same time black is gonna play, I don't know, rook d8, rook c8, maybe bishop e5, and
still danger, right? Still the king is cut off from any of its defenders. The pawn on e4 is doing a fantastic job. I would prefer to play black, although I appreciate that this position is still very balanced. I think that black could do something to make life life.
Well, at least there are no more knights on the board, and
That's
that
true.
means it's harder to use these weakened squares. And somehow I feel that if you kind of find a way to trade more pieces with white, just wonder what pieces you should feel like trading. If you are able to trade those light squared bishops, it would be great.
Okay, so
But
this
hard
was
to imagine how to do that.
Yeah, so this was going back to the game position. So knight d2 was played, where Ju Wenjun essentially admits that her knight 2 to f3 was a mistake because she's now retreated the knight to d2. And we were looking at the very direct queen h4 threatening checkmate on h2. There are other possibilities. I guess you could put your rook if you want to build. And are there any concrete ideas that white has? Like, for instance, knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, and then something to do with this bishop, but I don't think there is.
Well,
Is
in
that just-
general, I think white wants to capture on e4 and maybe then play a bishop g4.
So say for instance you go rook c8, because that could be a nice building move. Just develop the rook, and knight takes knight, pawn takes, and then put the bishop to g4.
Oof,
hang on,
although
there's
I have
nothing
to be
happening.
careful, queen h4,
Yeah,
or
there's-
something like that. I forgot, of course, about black's ideas.
Yeah.
Maybe in that case, I have to prepare all those exchanges by playing something first, maybe something as h3. Can it be a good idea or not to prepare this? But then it's gonna be too late somehow.
Then it kind of feels that if I could only get my queen to e5,
Right.
then there's going to be some unpleasantness happening.
Maybe bishop b8
along.
and queen c7.
Bishop
then.
b8, bishop b8 suddenly, then queen c7, and then it's not easy to defend this h2 point.
So
And
probably
we
white
see
just
that-
doesn't have this luxury anymore to make those waiting moves because she already lost some time, and that just means that she has to exchange. Knight takes e4 immediately after rook c8. D takes e4, and then probably knight takes c6, and agree that
I don't know which one's best, but I was thinking rook c6 just because I'm a big fan
yeah,
of
that
the
looks
rook
nice.
swinging
rook
over.
lifts.
Exactly.
Because bishop takes h2 is a threat, I think, or at least a very strong possibility. Even if I play rook c1, let's say,
let's
I
have a
think
look.
you can consider capturing on h2s and playing rook h6 and queen h4, and maybe it's not like winning, but it would make me very worried. Like f4, probably the only move.
Yeah, otherwise queen h2 or queen h1 is going to be checkmate. And
in the game I would be very worried to play with white. Like queen g3 even you can try to, but then maybe queen takes d7.
Queen takes d7, and unfortunately you're hitting queen e8 and you don't have time for rook h2. Yeah, but these are the kind of things that will be running through Lei Tingjie's mind, and also Ju Wenjun will be looking at ways where she can safely neutralize Black's dynamism. And going back, so that was knight d2, rook c8, scary option for white. And what other moves could Lei Tingjie be thinking about?
Queen c7.
Queen c7.
Yeah,
Queen
it's
c7,
another possibility, right? Just, okay, maybe not the battery you wanted to build. Usually you prefer to have your queen first and then the bishop behind, but okay, it might be a possibility to consider, thanks to this pawn on a6, thanks to this tiny move a6 that Black made a few moves ago, like just indicating how those tiny small moves bring up much bigger possibilities to the board sometimes.
The butterfly effect is what I like to call it. And
yeah, because here I wonder whether g3 already runs into something like knight takes g3. Can white make this move?
Well,
let's say knight takes
let's
g3.
go. Knight takes g3, and the evaluation passes no.
It's just too weak for us. Too weak.
Okay. But there was a possibility to do some things. Just because
I could have inserted like bishop h3 first. Maybe it might.
And then knight takes g3. No,
it doesn't like my idea with knight takes g3. It says it's not right, and instead the engine just plays bishop b4 here, which is a very nice move. Like a bishop going into two different directions. Bishop h3, bishop b4, pinning the knight on d2, and somehow this pin is very unpleasant. I don't know, knight 4 to f3 probably is the only move to protect this knight, but in that case probably something else will come.
And white needs to lose the obsession with the f3 square. And this is not good. Good news, I mean, just take a look at the bishop on h3. There's pinning and here, and there's also moves like knight c3 that can be played and take control of the dark squares. Yeah, this is completely gone wrong for white. So
I want to try one line. Queen.
Let's
show this line here. I know that it's completely winning in many ways for a black, but I was just checking if that one is winning, and it is winning. So queen a5.
Yeah.
a3.
Build up pressure here. Yeah.
Bishop takes d2.
b4.
Bishop takes e1, of course. B takes a5.
I'll take the queen.
Yeah, so bishop takes f2. King to h1, and then bishop takes e3. And I'm threatening to play knight f2. And it seems that black is just winning in this position. So let's see. Let's prolong the line a little bit more to queen to b3.
Yeah, get the queen out of dodge. Knight comes to f2.
Yeah, but it's just, just the position is too good. Black has an rook, a knight, and 2 pawns for a queen. But just according to the engine, it's not because you win something like immediately. You can even play rook a to d8. Just the position is too good.
Wow. And the white king is just sad they're caged in the corner. And you're right, you don't even need to do this type of stuff. So knight f2, king goes to g1, and it's just trapped there. And yeah, I agree with you. Like, you come there, and if you touch any of these pieces, something will fall off because of the discovered check. So beautiful variation. And it wasn't entirely dumb either, because what I'm trying to say is that it wasn't entirely dumb that white found themselves in this particular situation, because this all arose from queen c7, which provoked g3. And g3 was just an immediate mistake because of bishop h3, and then like a pincer movement on the rook, catch them from another side, and that's how white's position quickly fell apart. So this means after queen c7 that white is already forced to move a knight back to f3.
Well, you can still play h3.
Yeah, I don't like h3 though, and just just in principle, because you know, you allow like this hook to open up the king position, and just in general.
Yeah, but the queen is not on f6 or g6, right? To hide,
that's true.
Highlight this, because what knight did you want to go to retreat to f3? I mean, the knight d2 to f3, it's gonna be a little bit too much, I think. But if you play knight 4 to f3, then you know there is another very nice rook lift. Rook e6 becomes possible. Yeah. Rook is what?
Yeah, rook e6 is now possible. Wow.
And it looks also nice, like rook g6 or h6, transferring your rook via this. I love those rook lifts. I mean, I enjoy them so much, because somehow, you know, you kind of used to the fact that rooks don't usually work so much in middle games, right? We don't see them like get into action, but sometimes it do happen, like those rook a3, g3, some rook lifts. I enjoy it. Seeing
I enjoy them too. And one of the things that always baffled me is that when you teach, well, actually, you don't teach people how to play chess. You don't teach them any rules. Invariably, they will begin with the move h4, and then the other one copies with h5, and then the rook comes up to h3, and it does its thing along the third row. And I was thinking, what is the psychological attraction about this? And it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, that was like, why does the brain automatically, because it happens way too many times for it to be like coincidental. There must be something in our brains.
Right. If I would need to explain, I would say that rooks are generally quite an easy piece to move for like beginners, because it just goes, you know, in lines. Because if you compare it to a queen, it's like getting too complicated, like it's lines diagonally and vertically. A knight, of course, is the most complicated piece. Bishops move weirdly and diagonally. So what else? King, you're afraid to move your king because, well, you know that if there is a checkmate, the game is over. So you are left with rook's moves, right? And it's just such an easy piece. It's just very, very straightforward. And probably that's why. I don't know. That would be my explanation. Maybe I'm mistaken, but we should ask those players who make those moves. Why.
Right. That's true. I mean, I can't really remember those times, but yeah, no, I remember seeing it so many times. And another thing that's happened for way too many times to be a coincidence is the fact that the king and the queen get placed on the wrong squares. You know, you see them in adverts all the time. But if you think about it,
drives me crazy.
If you think about it, yeah, I mean, it certainly does drive us quite crazy. But they just have a 50% chance of getting it right and wrong.
And somewhere in the center.
Exactly, you would expect that to happen, but no, in all the kind of adverts.
You know, it was funny because a long time ago, 20 years or so, I was taking part in one advertisement in in Russia, so they were filming like almost a small movie. It was very professionally done. And then they were preparing like those billboards to put all around like Russia and everything. And I was saying to them, okay, maybe you want me to give you some kind of position to put on those billboards, because I know the probabilities of putting like pieces on. And they said, oh no, don't worry, we'll just make these computers play against each other and we'll pick up some one of their positions. And oh my god, they put something weird, very weird on those billboards, and I was I was saying, okay, I was offering, just to avoid this kind of nonsense. And then there was some kind of, I don't know, like stone walls for both sides on the board, some very like ridiculous situations. But yeah, that happens. They just like those people who are outside of the chess world, they just don't understand how
right
these computer
but
like positions look.
But for me, it's always like that they always put the king on the wrong square. And like they could have a 50% chance at getting it right, but they always get it wrong. And I'm just kind of fascinated. Again, there must be some kind of bias in our minds to make sure that the king is placed on the wrong square. So, food for thought anyhow. And we do see a move from Lei Tingjie. We see her capture the knight in the middle of the board. But I'm going to keep you on a cliffhanger. We will investigate the consequences of this move. And there we see the players locked in thought in Chongqing, the second half of the Women's World Championship match, because we're going to take a very quick break. But don't go anywhere, because we will be investigating that move as soon as we come back.
Interested in becoming a chess streamer like your favorite creators, such as Hikaru, Gotham Chess, and the Botez sisters?
Come on! Look at this! Woo!
The Chess.com community streamer program is growing every day. Whether you're just getting started with streaming or already established and looking to expand your audience, you can now connect your account to Chess.com and have your stream promoted on the game's largest platform. Simply link your account at chess.com/settings/connected accounts, set your category to chess on Twitch, and start streaming. You'll get an ad-free experience on chess.com. You will pop up on our list of live streamers. Your chess.com profile will feature your Twitch stream, and your stream will be linked to your games on our Play server. Type Command Community Streamer in chat and start growing your stream today.
Chess.com's game review recently got a major update. Here are 4 key notes. At the end of each game review, you will now see a summary of the game from your coach, your performance rating for that game, and a quick grade for you and your opponent in the opening, middle game, and endgame. We've added a new classification called Miss for when a move fails to take advantage of an opportunity, but it is otherwise a sound move. We've also changed the definition of blunder. Now a move will only be considered a blunder if it loses material or allows a checkmate. Coach will now draw arrows and highlight squares when you hover over or click on the highlighted words in the move explanations. This should make move explanations easier to follow. Finally, Coach's explanations will now reference specific pieces and threats in explanations, making move explanations much more intuitive. The new game review experience is available on Chess.com right now.
we're just waiting on Lei's choice here.
Oh no!
She didn't play that!
Kudos to Lei Tingjie for a really, really impressive performance.
Lei Tingjie has won this match. Huge congratulations. What a performance. Great games.
And that's it!
Resignation!
That's it!
Lei Tingjie, the winner of the 2023 Candidates Finals. Congratulations to Lei Tingjie and her supporters.
We are back, and there we see impressive challenger Lei Tingjie. She's been keeping toe-to-toe with the reigning Women's World Champion, and the scores are tied here. And she's impressed us all with her direct play, her opening preparation, and the way she's skillfully handled all those tricky waters that Ju Wenjun has set for her. And talking about tricky waters, we see that it is not Lei Tingjie who is in any trouble in this position. We see that it is Ju Wenjun, the reigning Women's World Champion, who is on the defensive and making very committal pawn moves there to defend her king. And I did leave you on a cliffhanger because just before the break, we saw that Lei Tingjie had played knight takes knight after a long pause, and we were thinking, whoa, what's happened? Is there too many simplifications? And well, no, Lei Tingjie, she is an aggressive player, and her idea was always going to be something spicy, and it was rook e6 with the idea of swinging the rook over to attack this weak point on h2, to which Ju Wenjun has responded with a very committal f4 pawn move. Alexandra, what do you think about this lunge there in the center?
Well, first of all, of course, I love to see this rook lift. We've been discussing a similar idea to in a little bit different line, right? It feels that black didn't have to capture on d4 immediately. Lei had this possibility to build up some pressure to bring the rook to c8 or the queen first to c7 and see what white is going to do, and then keeping in mind this knight d4 rook e6 as an option. She decided to go straight into those complications, like revealing all her cards right away, capturing on d4, playing rook e6, indicating her intentions with bishop takes h2, rook h6, queen h4, everything that we discussed and enjoyed. We've been discussing and enjoying so far, but it looked very dangerous. It looked very unpleasant for white. But Ju Wenjun kept her cool and played f4. Yes, this move is a very committal decision, as you mentioned. Of course, we know that pawns don't go backwards. That means that the pawn on e3 is like forever weak for the moment. But, well, it's all about king safety at this stage. And this pawn on f4 does close the bishop on d6. It's not heading to h2 anymore. So it's like a relatively safe option for white, because even if, let's say, white loses a pawn on e3 later on, most likely Ju Wenjun will get her chance to get the pawn on d5. So probably it's just going to be a trade, an exchange of those two pawns, and just some kind of equal positions are gonna happen. So f4 is a very safe option, because yes, the e3 is a weakness from now on, but if we're talking just about pawn weaknesses, d5 pawn is still there and it's also quite weak. So nothing. I mean, as long as white is not getting checkmated, the game will go on.
Yeah, the game will certainly go on, and yeah, you're right. You know, I was a bit shocked actually to see white defend in such a way. I was expecting more knight f3s, but Ju Wenjun, she says, no, I don't want any of that. I don't want to worry about that anymore. And yeah, I agree with you. It is going to be like a trade, right? Tit for tat, as we say in the UK. Yeah, you have a weak e3 pawn, you got a weak d5 pawn, and also white gets control of some squares.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, exactly. Like the e5 square is attracting, you know, yeah, exactly my attention.
Exactly, and I'm seeing some comments in chat and also from our producer saying slightly disappointed that the bishop didn't come to d3, and then we could have 4 bishops on the same line as we saw yesterday. We do appreciate the geometry there, but yeah, I'm not sure the bishop will come into d3 anytime soon, but who knows? The possibility is not to be ruled out.
It might after knight takes e4 at some point. Well, maybe not to d3, but to f3 for sure. For example, if black ignores any white's ideas and plays something like rook to c8, knight takes e4 might be an option, like capturing this knight, because if the rook takes, then bishop f3, bishop takes d5, and 4 bishops are on the board, as you asked.
Yeah.
Right, so it's
nicely done.
Never say never.
And you've won a pawn to boot.
Yeah. But remember, I was saying that after knight takes e4, it feels like black wants to reply with d takes e4, but the pawn is already on f4. So it's a different story. There is no en passant possible anymore. So we know the pawn is already, there on f4. And this structure, well, it's pretty safe still for white. And
yeah, it's very safe for white.
It's shielding. They're shielding the white king. The white king feels pretty safe behind it.
Definitely does. And also, if for some reason this bishop leaves this d6 square, then of course white has the possibility of going f5, f6 on a beautiful day. But okay, it is not a beautiful day just yet. But still, bishop g4, and it's a completely different story as you've highlighted with these 2 pawns. So definitely knight takes knight is something that Ju Wenjun will be wanting to play. She will want to somehow lessen the pressure on this potential weakness. What other ideas could
we can
Lei
consider?
Tingjie
Yeah, we can consider rook h6. We haven't discussed, I think, this one. Like to insist on moving the rook to the king side, on putting this pressure on the h file, because after rook h6, queen h4 is still in the air, right? You somehow need to take this move into consideration. Although, knight f3 is going to protect. Oh, there is something else being played.
Yep. We have a move, bishop c5.
Okay, well, quite logical, right? In a way that white did weaken her pawn on e3, as was mentioned, and by bishop c5, black is trying to highlight this weakness, because if the bishop is gone, if the bishops are getting exchanged, like bishop takes c5, knight takes c5, immediately we feel the pressure on the e3 pawn.
Yeah. Remove one of the defenders, that's a good idea. There are consequences though, for starters.
You know,
have
maybe
to figure all the checks, the captures.
Exactly. But if knight takes e4, it feels like a very forced line from now on, because knight takes e4, bishop takes d4, the only move, right? The bishop is hanging.
Yeah.
Queen takes d4 also, seems logical. Rook takes e4, because you don't really want to be left with all those pawns on white squares and the white squared bishop. So queen takes d5. And here probably...
Rook takes e3? Can you
or
get away
bishop,
with it?
Or bishop c6. I was wondering, shall you include because okay, let's rook takes e3 because it attacks the bishop on e2. Yeah, you're right. White doesn't have. I mean, she can play rook to d1, but then the rook is going to capture on e2, and well, it looks like a very throwish position. Queen takes d7, queen b6. Even white has to be careful. Maybe rook d1 is slightly inaccurate in that case, because again, this pawn on f4, we've been talking a lot about this move, but in this position it also it makes quite a difference, right? It does weaken white's king from this perspective. So probably rook a to d1 is a little bit inaccurate, and there are some other moves. There is a bishop f3 probably instead.
Yes, so bishop f3, and I'm
bishop
guessing
c6,
maybe bishop 6. Or
and then
is there some? I wonder whether you can keep the pressure alive.
Queen to b6,
Let me just,
right?
Yeah, but there's queen takes b7.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes. So bishop c6.
And then you queen takes d8. Oh, you have to check queen c5 as well. But okay, let's say queen d8, rook d8, bishop c6, b takes c6, and then rook d1. Man, it should be a draw.
Yeah, it should be a draw, right? Black's
rook
rooks are very active.
Yeah, I don't know if it makes a difference, but I would
yeah.
a to d1. I don't know, maybe rook f to d1 is equally good, and it's actually happening. We see knight capturing on e4. The bishop is going to capture on d4. It's a forced move. White is going to capture with her queen, of course. Otherwise, there are going to be just too many weaknesses.
And
we are
racing down this line, and well, white has to go queen takes pawn. Because if you don't go queen takes pawn, if you try to be ambitious and move the queen somewhere else, then black simply plays queen b6, and well, the pressure on e3 is just too much. So Ju Wenjun, she's taking a pause, but yep, she was never going to play anything other than this move. And now Lei Tingjie's turn. Rook takes pawn.
Yeah, feels
Bishop c6.
quite forced. Feels quite forced because again, this pin, bishop d7, queen d8 might seem unpleasant, but rook captures on e3 with a direct threat, right? It attacks white's bishop, so it gives black this important time to unpin herself after white protects this bishop on e2.
Yeah, and I don't expect anything else because, well, sadly, this queen on d5 is very strong, and it's hitting at b7, and also you have ideas of rook a to d1 or rook f to d1. I don't know which one. Let's just put the rook a to d1, and there is all sorts of questions being asked. So black has to go on the offensive immediately. Rook takes e3. I'm just wondering if there's anything else that can be played, and because we see Lei Tingjie taking a pause.
Well, you always want to double check, right? She has so much time on her clock. There is, it's very important not to rush, even not to make obvious moves fast. I've had so many. I have so many unpleasant memories in a way when, for example, my opponent captured my piece and I captured it back automatically because it feels so automatic, and then the very instant when you capture back, you realize that you've missed something, and you start wondering why do you make those. Nothing should be automatic. You always should, in classical chess, you have this time and you should use this time to just make sure that you're not missing some intermediate move, some different ideas that just forget about automatic replies. It's not online chess, right?
Yeah, you reminded me of this story that so we were watching Mickey Adams, UK's #1 chess player, play chess, and he literally had a mate in one. It was as simple as putting the rook on the back rank and delivering checkmate. there was a pause. And he didn't do it immediately. And like we were just watching him and just thinking, why are you not playing it? And he played it like maybe after 1 minute. Like, and then afterwards it dawned on us that how many points do you think he saved or won because he hasn't made the obvious move quickly? He hasn't let that excitement get to him. And I think it is a good decision by Lei Tingjie to pause, but then she did play a very committal move, and I would have expected her to have this position all worked out. And there we see Lei Tingjie. I was wondering about that camera angle, what she was doing, but it's probably just contemplating or
right. Well, I mean, she
scratching.
has 48 minutes, right? Why
She
should
does.
she? Because I was looking through my recent games yesterday, I think, and there was a game I played in the 10th round of the last Grand Prix in Nicosia against Polina Shuvalova, and it was a very complicated game and many mistakes from both sides. But then at the very end, I sacrificed and exchanged, and there was like it's an endgame already, and she captured my bishop with the idea that if I capture like her rook, she will like win back this exchange. And I had a very beautiful, she just captured my bishop with her rook, and of course I captured her rook with my rook, like automatically. Only like an instant, a second later, realizing that I had an intermediate. I could have attacked her second rook with my knight, and if she captures my rook with her other rooks, then I take her like rook that was attacked by my knight with a fork. And so like I win 2 rooks, like, checkers motifs, like check and then take. And I thought at this moment that I just let the whole victory slip away, just like that, because I was like 2 pawns up, and okay, I sacrificed an exchange, but if I would win it, it would just mean that I would get a knight endgame with 2 extra pawns. And I was so disappointed and mad at myself by letting this chance slip away, that I was playing on, like, just I couldn't stop playing, and I almost lost this game because of that. I couldn't agree on a draw later on where I should have, and just because being so mad, just because of this automatic reply, you should always take this pause and just double check if you don't have something else. Sitting on your hands, they say. Sometimes it's a good advice.
It is a good advice, and but sometimes the brain is cruel. Sometimes you think about something for a long time. I mean, I had this game against the Grandmaster, and I had the opportunity to make this beautiful queen sacrifice. And the funny thing was, it's like as soon as I make my move, I see that I can play my queen and sacrifice, but I've already touched my piece, I've already pressed the clock, and I'm like, why, brain, are you working for the 1 second after I pressed the clock? Why were you not working like 10 seconds before, when you could have stopped me from making that mistake? And
the biggest
then you
mystery
kind of
in
get
chess,
hung
right?
up. Exactly, and then you get hung up on that, exactly like you say. And I've had situations where I remember I was playing a blitz tournament in London Chess Classic, and my opponent hung a queen. I didn't notice, and I carried on playing, and then like my brain was like, wait, she blundered her queen, and then I could not get over that at all, and I ended up losing
it's
my
better
knight,
not to
losing
see those missed opportunities. Yes, exactly, because then you start contemplating, you can't play on when you realize that you've just missed a winning shot, and it's so hard. It's better to see it after the game. And, the rook is on e3. No.
Rook takes the pawn, and this is what we were expecting, because the rook does counterattack the bishop on e2. And now the position has fizzled out, and it all becomes whether white can put some pressure on this d7 bishop, on this pawn, whether somehow she can coordinate her rooks into the center without liquidating into a drawn endgame.
But it seems that white can actually win a pawn right now. Well, at least temporarily. She can play, Ju Wenjun can play bishop to c4.
I was just considering that just now.
Yeah, you know, 2 pawns are hanging, the one on f7 and the one on b7. So it's like a double attack. Well, it's been on the board. Well, the queen's been on d5 for a while, but now since the bishop is on c4, it helps queen to attack on f7.
And we have to certainly investigate this. So the first move that I'm thinking about is bishop e6, offering a trade-off.
Yes, exactly.
And
you really want to play
get
this
greedy.
Move.
Of course, I want to take that.
Right. The only problem is that after bishop takes c4, b takes c4, black. Actually, she can. I thought that there is no queen d4, like immediately, but in fact, black can play
there
queen
is.
d4. I'm not saying it's a good move, but it's a possible move.
Well, it gets wild, doesn't it? Because after queen takes rook, and you say, oh, that's checkmate, but it's not checkmate because the rook on e3 will move away with a discover check, and then the queen will fall off the board. So that is in fact possible. So queen d4, but there is no threat.
Yeah, it's not a good move,
I guess,
because of queen d5. Forcing.
You managed to trade of queens.
Yes, almost. Not forcing queen a7 is still possible, but then c5, and white keeps this extra pawn on the board. And
that's kind of like the worst case scenario, because the rooks are going to get behind it, and once the king moves, that pawn will start advancing, and that's the last thing Lei Tingjie will want, is to lose in game 10, so close to the finish. No. That is not going to be the move she plays. So after pawn takes pawn, we've actually seen Lei Tingjie, she's very happy to abandon material in order to get activity. So I don't think she will be feeling stressed, but if I were playing black, I would be feeling stressed about how I would recover this lost pawn. How to do it.
Yeah, exactly. White has an extra pawn. She wants to play rook d1, right?
Yeah.
Because the back rank is quite weak. The rook on a8 is hanging. You start like analyzing something like rook b8, but then again it's like 2 pawns, and rook a to d1 may be played first also.
Even nicer, right?
And then you can capture on a8, a6. I'm sorry.
So the queen must move somewhere, and I don't know where. Let's say it here.
To f8,
you don't really
probably
be trading.
No, although it might still be draw, but who knows?
Yeah, and bishop c4 played.
It is happening. Because again, the engine, it shows like equality in almost all moves you can think of. Well, except the ones that we just tried. But although rook b8 does keep the equality according to the engine. But well, a few accurate moves are still required from black. And that's why it's a little bit sad, because it felt like Lei was pressing on time and position, and she didn't have to, to get into those simplifications and with the idea just to equalize the position. She could have played for something more than that. She could have put more pressure onto Ju Wenjun. At least she had all the chances she could possibly dream of, and it was such a dream. Scenario.
It was such a dream. If we just go back a few moves, everything kind of happened on move 14. So she jumped in with the knight. It's looking great for her. She's got ideas of queen f6, queen h6, knight coming to e5, and then Ju Wenjun took the decision to actually admit that she had made a mistake.
Yeah, great
and retreated
decision.
the knight to where it
25
came
minutes.
from.
She spent
Excellent
25
decision
minutes.
because it completely somehow just set Lei Tingjie on a kind of very strange course of action. And here Lei Tingjie could have just built the position up. So Rook c8, Queen c7 was a really nice idea, provoking weaknesses from white. And Lei Tingjie was like, no, I'm gonna just follow my style and follow her strength, which in this position turned to be a weakness, because after bishop here, Rook e6, direct play, well, f4 it just provoked Lei Tingjie once again to play some direct chess, just to resolve the tension on the board. And the consequence of this very forcing move is that after Rook takes e3, bishop c4. And yeah, Lei Tingjie is probably fine with the draw. She's playing with the black pieces after all, but still she has to get the draw. She will be a pawn down as indicated, and 2 pawns are under attack, b7 and f7. You have to defend one of them.
Well,
I wonder
nothing.
whether her plan
Yeah,
is she forced to go bishop e6, or can she give up the f7 pawn in order to put a bishop on c6?
Well, I doubt it would be a good
It
idea. It doesn't feel as black has enough time, to build up this initiative. Although, of course, you should consider such possibilities, because again, this pawn on f4, it does weaken the king side a lot, right? This g1 a7 diagonal, the second rank. So let's say bishop c6, queen takes f7, king h8. There are some ideas for black in the air, such as queen to b6, for example, if rook a to d1 is played, which seems it's a very natural move. Queen b6 might happen, and I mean, who knows, maybe the compensation is still enough for black to hold the game, although it does feel pretty risky. I mean, bishop e6, bishop takes c4, exchanging those light squared bishops feels safer in a way.
Yeah.
But the situation is going to be similar. I mean, whether the bishop goes to e6 or c6, you kind of give up one of these pawns and you hope that your compensation is going to be enough to hold the game in draw. I mean, why bishop e6, bishop takes c4 feels safer for me? Because after exchanging on c4, you kind of make white structure, pawn structure worse. The pawn on c4 is not protected by her colleague on a2 anymore, right? And it feels like it should be somehow lost if black is able to combine threats to the king, to white's king, and threats to this pawn, and just eventually like consolidating all her pieces on the c file. You just feel that it should be enough to win it back. But of course,
it definitely feels safer, just like you say, because this is weak. And I'm also wondering, bearing in mind this is Lei Tingjie and she likes to play active chess, I was wondering whether she's happy to kind of sacrifice 2 pawns and go rook to b8 and then go la la la. I don't know whether to go put my pawn on my rook on b2. It's such a pity black hasn't played h6, because then you would really have compensation.
Right, maybe you have it now and you still have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the back rank is weak for black as well, so she has to keep an eye on it.
That's true. Although you could see lines like, for instance, the rook comes to d1 and the queen, I'm just going to put her here. Or maybe I'm going to put her on e8, just so she can line up on this. And then if you completely negligent and go queen a5. I just wanted to show this line, Ricky, too.
Checkmating.
And if you think, I just and wanted to show, and it has the weirdest name in the world. And actually, the biggest world championship blunder was made in a kind of with this mating pattern. I think it was Chigorin. Someone, I can't remember the name, but it was a Steinitz. Yeah, it was Steinitz, and I can't quite remember who it was, who he was playing against. But they completely like got a rush of blood to the head, and they missed that this checkmating idea is possible, and it's called the blind swine mate, which is like how, and it's after in the 19th century there was a Polish strong player, David Janowski. He got very frustrated with these two rooks, and he called them blind swines. He says they eat everything, but they couldn't give checkmate, because if you do take away this rook, there is no mate. And so it was like an insult to these rooks, and then somehow or other this checkmate came to be called blind swine mate. So that was I digress anyway. I just wanted to highlight the possibilities with those two rooks on the second. So bishop e6 is what we are expecting, but going back to the position, this is the situation on the board for Lei Tingjie. She has to give up a pawn, either b7, f7, and she has to make a choice. We're predicting bishop e6 because it just feels a bit more stable, forcing white to ruin their pawn structure here on the queen side. But of course, Lei Tingjie might decide that activity is what she favors.
And having more pieces on the board, although again, as you mentioned, after bishop e6, bishop takes e4, it can still be all about activity, right? And this rook b8, rook b2 plan seems as a very straightforward and quite an interesting plan, and I like it a lot. I mean, if it works, black can happily go for it and force white at some point to like make a draw somewhere. Oh, this one I didn't expect. I mean, it's possible, definitely, but somehow moving out of this pin felt more natural.
Right. Rook e7. Backward moves are hard to spot, and I also didn't have that one on my radar. Well, we have to take a look at this one, because the b7 pawn is ripe and ready for munching, but the queen on b7 up, and we didn't even need to think about it too long, because Ju Wenjun has grabbed that pawn on b7. And the big question is, where is this bishop going to go?
Yeah, what does Lei have in mind? Bishop b5, bishop e6, something like that. It feels like she has to. Probably she wants to play bishop b5 with the idea, but the rook on a8, it hangs, it keeps. I thought that bishop b5, queen f3, bishop takes c4, queen d4 check, and then trying to capture on c4 is black's idea. Probably it is, actually. For example, if white plays queen f3, bishop takes c4, b takes c4, queen is going to give a check on d4, but of course after king to h1, black is going to play rook to c8 first, moving this rook out of this attack, and after rook a to c1, she's not gonna capture on c4 immediately because of this back rank mate, but probably play something like rook c7.
And rook c7, double up on the c line.
And look, after rook f to d1, no, I thought that rook c4 is possible, but it's not. It's not possible.
It's not possible because,
yeah,
the queen does have the ability to move backwards, and of course white can play rook to d1, blocking the check. So that's not possible. But on the other hand, it doesn't quite matter. After rook f to d1, you can simply still retreat the queen, cover the d8 square, and pile up the pressure on c4.
Or goes like forward rook, queen b2. The most important thing here, as I know from my recent loss when defending this position, is for this the weaker side is not to exchange rooks, not to be left with queens on the board, because protecting this endgame with a pawn down in this position with 2 rooks and a queen versus 2 rooks and a queen, it's fine. I think it's very close to being equal. Well, if you do exchange both rooks somehow, you're gonna be left.
Yeah. Queen endings are very difficult, and I agree. The queen is going to place herself mightily in the center, and the white king can hide itself. So you've got to always look in queen and I'm doing back up to my old tricks again of clicking random squares and moving random pieces. In queen and pawn endings, I just want to say centralize your queen and make sure your king has a hiding place. If it doesn't have a hiding place, make sure it has a route where it can run to safety, and then if it doesn't escape the checks, you just have to accept it's a perpetual draw. It's a perpetual check. It is a draw.
Right.
Chess is, after all, worked out to be a draw. Sometimes you can't escape that fact. I agree with you. I would be hesitant to make rook trades and also queen trades as well. So, for instance, if the queen came running to b3, I would say, no, we're not making any exchanges here. But Lei Tingjie and Ju Wenjun, deep in thought. I just love the way that Lei Tingjie is not moving from the board. She's sticking to it like glue. Like right now, I would be out of there, I can tell you. And I think everyone in chat knows that I would be out of there. I would be in the resting area, pacing up and down and trying to work out, okay, how am I gonna gather my forces? How am I going to make sure that this position fizzles out into a draw? But Lei Tingjie, she's doing all that, but sitting at the board.
Yes, and they've been playing like that for this whole match, right? We are looking at the players at their working seats, like from the move on till the very, very last minute, despite what positions we have. And it's such a huge difference compared to the непомнящий День Лежения match that we witnessed in Astana, right? We saw no players at all during this match. They were, anywhere but at the table, and that's quite interesting to see to see these players all the time. I don't know whether I think it's just we're lucky in the sense that these players, they prefer to be here at the board. It's not only about this match, but it's just a regular way of playing.
Yeah. I haven't played Lei Tingjie ever. Obviously, I've seen her play, but unfortunately, I've also been playing at the same time myself, so I've never really hadn't gotten the chance to observe her in action, whether she sits there at the board, whether she does pace, and that this is a special thing that she's prepared for the Women's World Championship match. Because I'm sorry, when it's the World Championship match, everything gets analysed and every single thing gets scrutinised to the nth degree, and we start talking about psychology, we start talking about psychology of the board, think about your player style, and it's so much deeper than a normal chess tournament. And
right.
Ju Wenjun thinking where she's going to put her queen. Where's the best place for it? We were looking at queen f3.
Yeah,
it's
queen
possible
d5
she
is
might
also
want to go.
an option.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Queen d5, trading off queens, or at least offering a trade of queens, and putting the queen right back in the center could be something that she's thinking about. But then she'll have she will have to think about the resulting double rook ending if that does happen.
Yes, I mean, I was actually surprised to see her thinking, because at first I thought that queen f3 is the only option that white has here, but then I realized that after queen to d5, if black captures on d5, bishop takes d5, the rook on a8 is on prise, right? It's attacked, and even though it can simply move away to d8, but then it's possible, and you have to consider this move. And well, still, queen d5 seems a little bit
There's so many
less
captures there
attractive,
because-
less appealing than queen f3, because it does get under rook d7 and all those ideas connected with this move. But
Well,
she
queen
does make this
d5
move.
played.
Okay.
And I like your rook d7 idea, because then you can pile up on d2, and if you can pile up on d2, it's very tempting to actually keep this bishop alive, because if somehow or other you could get it to c3, the rook on d2, then that's some serious horsepower there on g2. But okay,
you know,
this is a
there
little
are-
bit wishful thinking.
Yeah, there are other ideas to consider, such as queen b6 check, king h1, rook d8. So like trying to attack on the d file was another rook, also quite possible. I mean, so queen d5 does feel like it gives black some choice, like then compared to queen to f3. But it can also backfire in a way, because you really you have so many like interesting continuations to choose from. It requires a lot of calculation works, and it is in a way more difficult than queen f3, bishop takes e4, which looked like a more forced line. Here it feels like you need to pick which one to choose. Queen takes d5, rook d7, queen b6, rook d8. Everything seems to be possible.
Queen b6, and also a move that I was thinking about was also bishop takes bishop as well. It's a possibility. So
Exactly.
Lei, lots of choice, and we are waiting for Lei Tingjie to come to a decision. We are 23 moves in. It does feel actually like they've played more moves, but the players have used up a lot of time. 35 minutes remaining for Lei Tingjie, whereas Ju Wenjun just over half an hour. And there we can see her considering which one do you predict, Alexandra, based on hang on a
rook
sec. You
d7.
don't
I
need
was going to say rook
yeah.
d7, but Lei helped me in a way. She's very fast. I mean, she keeps impressing me by making a very fast decision at this situation where you think, okay, there's going to be a 20-minute thing, because you can need to calculate, to compare, those details. Queen b6, rook d8, rook d7, bishop takes e4, queen takes d5. I mean, feels so overwhelming, but she pauses for 1 minute and then makes a move. Okay. Okay, well, that's quite determination, quite self-belief in a way, because it was not so obvious, at least to me, and I would spend quite some time to make up my mind. But no, we see the rook on d7. Lei is very confident in her moves and decisions.
She is certainly confident, and that's one thing that we've seen throughout the match. She has been very positive, very optimistic, and again, not lacking in confidence at all. And there we see Lei Tingjie sitting in her chair, considering this position. Even though it's Ju Wenjun to play, she's just thinking about how she can generate as much compensation as possible for that pawn deficit. And Ju Wenjun, it is her turn to think about where she's going to retreat her bishop. And well, whilst we're waiting for Ju Wenjun to take pause, it's time to mention one of the most important elite events that's happening. It's in full swing. It is the Bullet Chess. It's a 2023 Speed Chess Championship featuring Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Alireza Firouzja, and more. In today's semi-finals, Alireza and Magnus go head to head. Who will come out on top in this clash of generations? And it's Hikaru Nakamura against Daniel Naroditsky. Can Dania take down the reigning champ? Use exclamation point BCC in chat for all the details. And we'll be back with a tournament that has a slightly longer time control than a minute. See you all after this break.
International Master Danny Wrench, Chief Chess Officer, back again with more chess terms here for you today. We're going to talk about the passed pawn. The passed pawn must be pushed. You hear it said often, and that's because just about every endgame you see that isn't a blowout often comes down to maybe someone's up one pawn, or maybe even just the first person to create a passed pawn is the person who goes on to win that game. We're going to talk about what the passed pawn is and define it for you in today's video. Let's do it. What is a passed pawn? A passed pawn is a pawn that has no enemy pawns stopping it from moving forward. That means pawns either on the file in which it resides or on the adjacent files that would therefore capture the pawn should it advance. So if a pawn has none of those things stopping its way, then it's time to push them, baby, as our boy Yasser would say, and as you hear mentioned on many broadcasts that you would watch on Chess TV. And on that note, as we look at our game examples we like to do, this is taken from Tomaszewski versus Rajava. Here, White plays the move b5 exclam, which highlights, again, it's not how many pawns you have, but who's going to be threatening to get a queen first. After Black takes it, White pushes forward with gusto, and because the Rook can't blockade the pawn due to the light square bishop, this game is already over. Black is going to have to sacrifice the bishop for the pawn on b6, and White would simply be up a minor piece. Note that after the first move b5, should a takes b5 have been played, White would have pushed this pawn and then trapped the rook on a7, showing the power of the passed pawn. As with it protecting the bishop, this rook is completely out of the game, and White would easily go on to win, picking up pawns and just flexing the rook's muscles over the bishop for the rest of the game. So here we see a passed pawn being used as a weapon to just cramp down and trap all of your enemy pieces. So this has been another Chess Terms video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're enjoying all of them. And with that, I will sign off, hoping that you learned something about what a passed pawn is, and we'll see you around on Chess.com.
Okay, if I lose a game before I go to sleep, I have to play until I win. And once I win a game, then I will play another. Why isn't my chess rating going up?
China. The world's oldest civilization was born here. Thousands of years later, it is one of the world's chess powerhouses. For most of the past 30 years, China has held the most prestigious title in women's chess. The legacy of the Women's World Championship is rich. Menchik, Gaprindashvili and Chibananitsa, Kosteniuk, Sijun and Ho Yifan. Now, three-time world champion Ju Wenjun is defending her title once more. After vanquishing the likes of Katerina Lagno and Alexandra Goryashkina, another rival awaits. Challenger Lei Tingjie had to defeat 3 grandmasters in matches herself to get here. In the first 2 rounds of the candidates, she took on sisters Maria and Anna Muzichuk and won. Then in the final, she beat former world champion Tang Zhongyi.
And that's it! Resignation! Lei Tingjie, the winner of the 2023 Candidates Finals.
Will Ju Wenjun defend, or will we have a first-time champion, Lei Tingjie? Half the match is in Ju's hometown of Shanghai, half the match in Chongqing, where Lei hails from. Who will win and claim their share of the 500,000 euro prize fund? Welcome to the official broadcast of the 2023 FIDE Women's Chess Championship. Hello everyone, and we return to Chongqing, one of the world's largest cities and also one of the most exciting. It's called the Mountain City and it's full of action. And talking about action, it is the scene where our 2 players, reigning Women's World Champion Ju Wenjun with the white pieces and Lei Tingjie, are fighting it out for the crown, the ultimate title, Women's World Champion. And we can see that Ju Wenjun, she does have an extra pawn, and we left the game just when Ju Wenjun was deciding where she was going to retreat her queen. And if we return to the situation, the rook was attacking. That was Lei Tingjie's last move, and Ju Wenjun just smoothed it to the side. And after queen b6 check, the king has only one place to run to. And after bishop takes bishop, we see a trade. And now Ju Wenjun's extra pawn, it's not looking very healthy, but nonetheless it exists and it remains on the board. And if Ju Wenjun can keep it alive, then she will keep alive those winning chances. And if there is a decisive game in the game 10, this means that it's going to be huge. I mean, it really is such a big thing to win in the closing stages of a World Championship match.
Right, and Ju Wenjun can be very happy, even though the eval bar suggests this position to be like a deadly drawn position. But well, this extra pawn is still on the board. It's very safe for white to press, and black is required to make a few accurate moves. I do expect to see queen c6, by the way, on the board. I don't know, somehow I feel that it's in Lei's character to put the queen there, to have this idea of rook d2. But rook c8 is also a possibility. Of course, I mean, this extra pawn doesn't give white at this stage some significant advantage, but keeping in mind the opening outcome, right, and the positions that white had and the pressures that black actually had in the game, I think Ju can be quite happy with the current situation. And again, it's Lei who is required to demonstrate some precision, and because definitely an extra pawn is an extra pawn.
It is. I completely agree with you. And it's the kind of position that we've seen Magnus Carlsen just keep applying pressure on the opponent and they will eventually crack. Yes, it's true. Black will pile up on the c-pawn and white will also do everything possible to defend this pawn. But at the same time, once there reaches this deadlock, then it is white who will make their series of improvements. And if she can position her rooks in a flexible way, you know, maybe she even has ideas of kind of like going f5, f4, or maybe even, as we saw in the other game, going a4, a5, maximizing everything before she takes any active operations. And there we see queen c6 played.
Yeah, you see, I feel Lei's intentions already. Yeah, she is all about creating threats, and queen c6 is so good in this sense, because it's not only attacking the pawn on c4, but it also creates this rook d2 idea, which can be missed. For example, if white plays rook a to c1, seems to be quite logical, but unfortunately it doesn't quite work here because of rook d2. And now white is in trouble because, okay, this pawn should be protected. It's still like equal, but it seems rook g1 needs to be played.
Rook g1 looks very... Yeah, and you can also see how quickly things can turn. For instance, the rook can come to e8 and then can come to e2, and it's all guns ahoy on this little person, and that one is feeling the heat, and so you definitely need to deal with this idea of rook d2.
Right.
Rook d2.
So yeah, what to do now? I mean, black's plan is pretty obvious.
Maybe you have to.
Might be. I mean, maybe there is rook a to e1 possibility, with the idea after rook d2 to play rook e2. And if black captures the rook, then luckily for white, when she captures it back, her queen protects the pawn on c4, and the g2 square is protected. So that feels as a nice continuation for white. And we also have to keep in mind that after rook a to e1, white is threatening to give a checkmate on e8, right?
And that's a really important point, because after rook e2 you can't do this move, which would be raw, nice and flashy, but it would be flashy in the wrong way, because rook takes rook would lose to queen takes rook, but oh, look at that. Unfortunately, checkmate does end the game after rook takes queen, and there we have the back ranker in operation. So yeah, rook a1 is a nice idea.
Yeah, I like it, because I don't really see other options, to tell you the truth, for white. I mean, of course you can play queen to e2, but it looks rather passive, right? To bring your queen back to e2, and just doesn't feel right if you're trying to play for a win. Rook d1 also doesn't quite work, because black can simply capture on d1 and capture on c4, like equalizing completely. Rook c1 we already discussed. Is going to be met with rook d2.
Doesn't address the problem, And
again, queen e2, queen c3, it's possible. Like queen c3 is also possible to play, but it just, I don't know.
The queen is so well placed here on e5, and it doesn't feel like you should be retreating it from such a beautiful square. Oops, not there.
Exactly.
Just because, and immediately, black can play. I don't know whether you should take some time out to go h6, or whether you should immediately go rook d4, but it feels like black's plan is very simple, just to go rook a d8 and then come down to d2.
Or just just triple your pieces on the c file, get this pawn back, and agree on a draw. h6, I like this move a lot. Even after rook a2 e1, h6 feels like a possibility just to get rid of all those back rank checkmating ideas, just to be sure. The small window never hurts, and it does feel like black has time to make this move. And if it's true, then I think black should spend some time to get out of this risk.
I do have one question though. So say moves after h6, and okay, well, we actually have something on the board. So it's not rook a to e1, but it's rook f to e1 with exactly the same idea of threatening checkmate. Be careful, Lei Tingjie. Don't get greedy, because your king is vulnerable. Now it's not really a possibility, but I did wonder about this idea of going f5, f6, and trying to crack open the king side there. But okay, Ju Wenjun didn't believe in it, and if you don't believe in it, you don't like it, then you're not going to play it. And we see
those ideas can be appealing.
Rook ac1 is her idea, and get the rook behind the pass pawn and clamp down on the c pawn.
Yeah, so f5, f6, those ideas, of course, they kind of tempting in a way, but it just feels a little bit slow in this situation, because pawn on c4 is hanging, and just doesn't feel that you have all this time to make this plan come true. Well, yeah, exactly. Ju Wenjun is preparing to meet rook d2 with rook e2. Although now when I am saying that, I thought to myself, maybe she is considering queen e4 also. But okay, rook e2 or queen e4, somehow protecting this pawn on g2. And she keeps this rook on a1 to be able to play rook c1, yes, later on. And to support her c pawn, we know that the best place for rook is behind passed pawn, your own passed pawn. Kind of protects it there and pushes it forward. So that's why she keeps the rook on a1 to be able to play rook c1.
And it's a nice idea.
h6 is on the board, h6 is played, and I saw some comments about difference between f6 and h6. Yes, f6. It's same with f4, right? It does weaken the king a little bit, and while the queens are present on the board, it might backfire at some point. It's still possible, but h6 feels safer for the moment.
Yeah, for sure, h6 is the safer. In this type of endgame, I always value piece activity, and secondly, king safety. If your king is unsafe, then automatically I think you're in trouble, even losing, because these people are serious attackers. And sometimes I just call them the bad boys, because they are. And if they come sniffing around your king, then you won't survive unless you have some firepower ready as well. So yeah, h6 is a nice move. f6 I didn't like because it weakens the light squares, as you've highlighted. And now, big question for Ju Wenjun. Is she considering rook d2 as a threat? If she is, maybe she might play queen e4 and make that trade. At least she gets her rook behind the passed pawn. Another question for her is just maybe she should just do it immediately. Rook ac1. But again, rook d2 is
I think
maybe a problem. Rook e2 is the counter.
Right, both lines are possible. They don't feel to, probably they don't change the situation a lot. Like after queen e4, there's going to be a trade, and then rook is gonna be moved to d2, or after rook a to c1, rook d2 is also going to be played, and then there's going to be a choice either to play queen e4, rook e2. Again, both possible, both don't really change the evaluation of the position. Yes, white has an extra pawn, but black has just enough compensation to hold this equality, and it just looks as it's gonna be a draw. It doesn't seem very hard for Lei to hold this balance, and again, she's been playing so confidently and precisely so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking about moves that Ju Wenjun shouldn't play. So I think maybe we're going to see Queen E4. But are moves that she should not do. That could be a pitfall, for instance, like Rook AC1. I spotted one, which was okay, and then Rook D2.
Good, because it's quite hard to say what shouldn't be done. I think almost any move is fine for white.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, one thing you should not do is you should not panic and go Rook takes Rook. Because, there you go. You can see the evaluation bar just going up in black's favor because, of course, the pressure on G2 is too much, and the only way to defend G2 is to kind of put your Rook on G1, which is like, ugh.
Yeah, it's a sad story.
You lose the C4
white
pawn, and black's king is not in any danger, and the A2 pawn is dropping. So that's one way you can go wrong, by simply releasing the tension. And well, we are not going to see this line 100%. I say
exactly.
I'm very confident, unless there's something, just like a rush of blood to the head for Ju Wenjun and some kind of moment of panic. But we are not going to see something like that from such an esteemed competitor. So I'm expecting Lei Tingjie to go Rook to D2. She has to, by the way, she has to act now. Because if she doesn't act now, say for instance she just goes Rook AC8, then white will take measures to kind of defend the second row, and also you have ideas of pushing C5 at the right time, and it feels like white is slowly, little by little, going to take control. So I'm expecting Lei Tingjie to strike and put the Rook on D2, threaten checkmate, get the pulses racing.
Of course. Yeah, something, similar to the line that you proposed may actually happen, with the only difference that after Rook A, C1, Rook D2, Rook E2, Rook A to D8, white, of course, is not going to capture on D2, but instead she's gonna make a move, something like H3, protecting the first rank, to be able, after Rook D1, to capture on D1 and move her king away. But again, in that case, black is going to take on C4, queen takes C4, something like Queen E8, Queen E4 might happen, and draw
and this would be
offer soon.
Well, soon.
Soon, on move 40, yes, as we know. Or a threefold repetition somewhere before.
Well, these two are notorious actually in playing the long game, so there is some strategy involved, because I'm sure they would have normally just made eye contact, gone draw, and on to the next game. But these two, they take their time, they make their deliberate moves, and then only when it's like king versus king, or there's no chance for anything other than a draw, do they sit there and agree it. So there's a bigger plan, is what I'm trying to say, at stake here.
Yeah, they're not in a hurry to get back to the hotel room to prepare for the next game. Yeah, they do enjoy themselves right here and right now. And I'm not sure whether you've already discussed throughout this match the chairs, the choice of the chairs, because it's been Rook A to D8 is being played, not to Rook D2 immediately. A little bit surprising in a sense, but getting ready to play Rook D2. A threat is more dangerous than the execution, right?
Yes, and of course Rook E2 will be met by Rook to D1, because white does have problems on the back. Yeah, and then when it comes to the chess, it is certainly kind of an interesting point because, again, the World Championship match is the only, and the candidates as well, where you can get to choose your chairs.
Yeah.
And I remember the story that some people didn't like the chairs of the candidates, you know, the one that got postponed because the seats were just too comfortable. And they needed something else. Yeah. What's your preference for comfortable chairs or for?
You know, it's hard to say, but I like when you can adjust the height because sometimes it's just too low, and I have this habit that comes from my childhood to put my knees, behind. I just put my I'm sitting on my knees, and it's so uncomfortable, and sometimes when you have handles you are not able to do that, and it gets things complicated. So as long as you can put a chair higher, if I think it's fine for me.
That's a good point because we all have interesting seating positions. Like for me, I love to sit cross-legged, but I can't do that at chess tournaments because everyone will just be looking at me like weird. But okay, that's actually why you see me like. Sorry to the producers, that's why you see me like moving around a lot because I'm sitting cross-legged, and at some point my knees are going, "You're not young anymore," and so I'm like, okay. And you need your chair to spin around. I hate it when the chair spins around. Why? Because I am like a child and I will want to spin around as well, and I fidget, and goodness me, it's distracting for everyone involved. Exactly.
It's gonna be funny. I've never seen players, turn around, like make.
What I would like them to see them is like that Dr. No, like sit there and go, interesting move. And talking about interesting moves, we did see Ju Wenjun take a timeout to make some air for the king. The king now has a hiding place on h2, and the rook does indeed come to d2, and I'm gonna sound the klaxon because there's a checkmating idea on the board. The queen on c6 is threatening to come and take g2, and I'm sure there is like a tiny part of Lei Tingjie going, I hope she misses that. But obviously it will not happen, but you always feel that sense of excitement. So say she reaches for a piece and you think, oh, it doesn't protect against a checkmate, what is happening? But
I'm not sure that at this point of their careers they do get this slight hope that your opponent kind of blunder at some point. You just know that it's impossible. You stop believing in those miracles when you do believe in them when playing in kids events all the time, and they do happen. But at this point, I think you consider Rook e2 or Queen e4 to be like very strong possibilities.
Right, and we do see Rook e2 on the board. That checkmate has been blocked, and I suspect your line is going to make an appearance. Rook d2, and maybe we could see a repetition. So for instance, if you go, I just want to quickly highlight this, if you go Rook d1, is Rook e, no, Rook e1 is
to d2.
Big mistakes.
No, Queen e8, wait, how does
because I guess it's Rook c1.
You just take on c1. Okay.
You just take on c1 and then bam, Rook d2. No,
Rook g1. No, Rook 8 to d2. No, Rook 8 to d2 you go. Queen e8 is not possible because Queen takes a8 and the Rook is pinned. I forgot about it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes.
Rook 8 to d2.
I forgot about that too as well. So Rook 8 to d2, and that's it. You can't defend against checkmate. Yeah, because I was thinking about Queen e8 as well, but no, there's a pin, and we know the pin is mightier than the sword. So Rook e1 will just immediately almost end the game in the draw.
Yep.
Rook e2, Rook d1, because you have to take, and then the c pawn will fall. And we've seen this line, and this one means that the game will be finished very soon. unless there's some tricks. Am I missing some tricks like Queen B8 check?
Well, King H7, Rook E8, but yes, you're kind of threatening to give but just a check, I think. And you should also remember about your own king, right? Let me see. Okay, the Rook is on D1.
Yeah, Rook is on D1 check. And Rook takes Rook forced, as we saw. And now the king is going to slide up to H2. But Ju Wenjun, again, being very deliberate in her choices, taking a pause. She can also play Rook E1.
Exactly.
Intercept the check.
Exactly, Rook E1 is also possible. But it doesn't, again, change the evaluation of the position. Black holds in many ways. Rook E1, queen takes E4 seems to be the easiest one.
Yeah. And how would you be feeling, right, if, okay, king moves up to H2. So she had the white pieces once again neutralized by Lei Tingjie. She hasn't managed to pose too many issues.
Yeah, actually, she should be happy about this draw. About like she had those unpleasant moments where she did spend a lot of her time, but did find quite. I mean, she did require to find very difficult moves, such as getting back to D2, like accepting her own misplay. The move
this
before.
Is the moment. And
It's
this is
a
the
very
moment.
difficult psychological decision, yes.
Exactly. This is the whole point. Like she played knight 2 to F3, thinking that she's going to go for the long-term grind. And after knight E4 came, after I think 20 minutes or so.
24 minutes something.
She just had the courage to make the best move on the board, probably, and that's to play knight to D2. And that managed to confuse Lei so much that Lei tried to force things with knight takes knight and then Rook E6. And then
here again,
this
F4, a very difficult also
resource.
move. Yeah, very difficult move to make, again, psychologically, because you do understand that your pawn on E3 is getting weaker, but, you kind of weigh in all the, pros and cons of this decision, and definitely the position of the king side and white's king being ready to get attacked by black's pieces, it all indicates that this move just must play decision here. And yeah, she did play F4, and somehow Lei went into all those simplifications after bishop C5.
But I was impressed by this, that Lei Tingjie just calculated that these simplifications, and she anticipated that after these trades, bishop c4, that she had more than enough to secure a very comfortable draw. Again, I think very accurate game played by the two of them. And if I were to scroll down, hang on, let me have a look on the Chess.com accuracy thermometer or whatever it's called. I can see that Lei Tingjie and both of them have a 99.6 and the other one 99.8 accuracy.
Yeah,
mind-blowing.
A very even game in a way. White, I think, did make more inaccuracies than black, because black just let her chances to put more pressure slip away. And yes, again, probably Lei is just very happy with just, equalizing this game and getting ready for game number 11, her last game with the white pieces in this match. And we're down to 2 games. We're down to 2 games match, the same format that we are going to be playing in the World Cup, for example. Just 2 games. And if the score is even, then a tiebreak, a long expected tiebreak. We all, I think, waiting to see this tiebreak happen. We love those tiebreaks, although there will be people complaining that a fate of a classical match shall never be decided in a in a different time control. But what can you do after 12 games? Just to keep playing on back to these unlimited matches like Kasparov, Karpov.
Best of 5
era?
No. That's definitely, we don't want to return to that. And I agree, you win. People are always complaining. That's the moral of the story. And, well, one thing, though, is really relevant is the impact of the tie breaks on each team's strategy. So for instance, will they have made preparations for the tie breaks? Will they be confident in their chances of winning a tie break? These are all factors. We saw it very much at play when Magnus Carlsen was world champion. He took it to tie breaks twice, with Sergei Karyakin. He agreed a quick draw and then dominated on that time control. And then he did exactly the same with Fabiano Caruana, and Fabi, I think, later admitted that they hadn't considered the tie breaks at all. They were just so focused on the classical portion. And the same goes for Lei Tingjie and Ju Wenjun. Ju Wenjun's, she had to fight tie breaks and she managed to win against Goryashkina. She has some experience, but will she be happy to go into this? And when it comes to the tie breaks, let's remind ourselves of the format. It's a long one as well, as you highlighted. It's 4 rapid games of 25 minutes plus 10 seconds. So 4 rapid games, best of 4, and then it goes on to the blitz. Okay, here it is, the graphic. And then if that's still tied, then it's the best of 2 blitz games and this is a very long time control as well, 5 minutes plus 3 seconds per move. And then the final tie break, if that's all even, is this 1 blitz game where the players just keep on playing until there's a decisive result.
Yeah, right.
By the end of it, they must still be shattered. Yeah.
Yes, it's a very exhausting format, of course. A tiebreak, it's like, it's okay, but still, 2 more games. We don't count this one. 2 more games to go till this tiebreak, and many things are gonna happen. Starting with the very next one, when Lei is going to have white pieces, and we saw Ju Wenjun changing her openings, right, day after day, game after game, when she felt uncomfortable when playing the Italian game, and somehow she doesn't want to get back to it. But playing different openings with black pieces, it can backfire. At some point she may just face a situation, a very unpleasant situation. It's hard to play every single opening. It's possible, but it feels risky. Although we saw Dinh Liujian, right, also applying this kind of strategy with his match against Nepomniachtchi. But still, I'm looking forward to the next game to see what Ju Wenjun is going to play. Because, okay, she's not playing e5, she's tried c6, she's tried c5, but all those c5 looked already pretty risky, and this line was like bishop b7. She was lucky in a way to get away with it, but is she gonna continue like this, jumping and changing different openings all the time?
It requires a lot of hard work and energy as well, like you say, because you have to keep refreshing and you have to do a lot of preparation. You have to make sure you got that feel for that opening once it's on the board. It's completely different. You have to sit there on the computer and just go hit the space bar and go next. When you're playing it, you feel whether you're comfortable or not. I am also very curious. Her strategy has been very successful of switching around, but we will see, because Lei Tingjie will also expect this as well. So I don't know what we will see. And will we see also Lei Tingjie say, I've had enough of this, I'm going to make that first switch? And she could deploy something else, like she could play d4 which she's very capable of doing. But for the time being, the two players are playing out this completely level endgame. They're not allowed to offer draws. Those draw offers are only allowed to be made once they passed move 40.
Right, yeah, so we do expect to see at least 3 more moves from both of the players. But again, yeah, the position is equal. It's
yeah. I'm kind of expecting f5 to appear on the board. I was trying to get the pawns all symmetrically placed.
Symmetrical, right?
Yeah, and also also prevent the king from coming to e4, f5,
Yes,
and then
exactly.
you can copy.
Yeah.
And,
well, it's hard to say something more about this game than just being equal, and I think the players, their teams, even the commentators and spectators, somehow we are already in game number 11, and we're thinking about it and about what to expect. And I don't think Lei is gonna change, because again, it feels as a very big advantage for your opponent to not to play the Berlin defense anymore, because the Berlin defense seems such a big deal when you're trying to get an advantage with white. Kramnik just kept playing it. G5. Okay, well, that's also possible.
Also good. And what are we expecting? Pawn takes pawn. Are we expecting king
f3?
King f3.
Yeah, probably.
That would be my vote. And maybe we'll see the players repeat after the rook gives a check and the king steps back. But the problem is you have to make eye contact with your opponent. We said this time and time again, and you need to be both on the same page that you want to make the repetition.
I don't think rook d3 is going to happen actually after king f3, because there's king e4.
King e4. Yes. Yeah. Then I was thinking rook d2, but then the game will carry on. So absolutely not. After king f3, maybe f5. Stop the king from getting to e4. Okay, pawn takes pawn played.
Yeah, she captured the pawn. Look at Ju Wenjun, almost sleeping. Almost sleeping. And yeah, what I was saying, if Lei managed to put her opponent into a situation of changing openings all the time, it feels like a very big advantage, and I don't see why not just insisting on playing e4, because again, those constant switching, it can backfire. It's not about concrete lines, but about this feeling of an opening, right? If you don't have enough experience and you just apply a random opening, you can end up in a situation which you're not very familiar with, and your pieces just will not behave properly. They will go on in different directions that they're not supposed to go. It's not about the concrete lines, it's about really getting this feeling, and you get this feeling only by years of experience of applying this opening, of kind of accumulating this knowledge and playing successfully. So it's very hard to play something like very fresh.
And yeah, I agree with you. It is very risky, and again, it's time consuming, it's energy demanding as well. But we will see. We are going to see, and I would love to be a fly on the wall in both of these teams to kind of have that inside picture as to whether they're struggling mentally, whether they're feeling fatigued, whether there's been like the whole drama, or whether it's just been like a happy team and everyone is feeling cheerful and thinking, let's go, you've got this.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see behind the scenes, because that there are so many things going on, and we see just a peak of an iceberg, right? We just see the game, and the game, well, it's just one game, it just moves, but actually the preparation, the mental state, like their emotions, I mean, we see them, 4-5 hours a day, but there are so many hours left, and what are they doing, what are their thoughts? It would be very interesting.
One of the books that I read quite recently, and I really recommend it, is the book Mind Master by Vishy Anand, and there he just tells the stories and gives this info on what was going on behind the scenes. And he talks about how at one point, in game 1, he was paralyzed with fear, and he just froze in the car, and he didn't know what to do, and he couldn't think about anything. And Aruna was like, "Come on." His wife, come on, you got to hurry up. And then she realized what was happening, and then she put him on the phone to one of his seconds, and his second, said, "Don't worry about this," and just reminded him of a few lines. And then, he went to the playing hall, and he stood there, and he played the first game, and that, we couldn't have known any of those things. We just saw two people at the board playing chess. We know nothing about the emotions. We know nothing about the hard work, the team spirit. And it would be so wonderful to actually see this type of stuff. And I really want a documentary on the World Championship preparations.
Right, you always want to, Well, we do know that there is a lot going on because, we've both been there, maybe not at this stage, maybe not in a World Championship match, but definitely in a tournament with all those emotions and preparation and drama, right, behind the thing. And we can imagine that there is so much more than just this game, this drawish end game, right? It's just so much work and determination and hopes and emotions, and unfortunately we can't. I mean, we can rely only on the moves and a short short interview afterwards. But of course, it would be so much more interesting to see a wider picture, and probably one day we will be able to witness it one way or another.
Yeah, I really hope one day that there is a documentary released about this type of thing, and then we can see the whole, for instance, we're looking at Lei Tingjie now, and she just looks like, okay, why is this game continuing? But if we had this documentary, we could see the teams, the seconds, and going, oh no, she had a really bad night's sleep. She couldn't sleep. She was feeling restless, and this is incredible that she's actually got to this stage, and and just gotten herself together to easily neutralize Ju Wenjun. And then again, the shoe would be on the other foot, and then we could see, oh no, Ju Wenjun, she at the last minute she decided to play this particular variation. Everything else was just
something like this, a documentary, a Breakpoint documentary on Netflix that's been released about tennis or something similar to chess. Would be amazing, of course, for us chess players, for all the chess spectators, to have a wider picture, because sometimes it feels like chess lacks a little bit of emotions. It's so hard to open up this, to show the feelings, the pressure, and people just imagine sometimes that it's so easy, to play chess, just moving pieces around on the board, and there is nothing really behind it. But in fact, there is so much behind it, and you've been there. There
really is.
Yeah, you feel like you're sharing it.
Exactly. I remember my mother calling me up not that long ago, and she said, "Yovi," she said, "is it true that the players have got 20 moves of preparation worked out?" And I said, "Yes." And she looked at me and she goes, "How disappointing."
Right.
She thought they'd been freestyling from the beginning. I was like, no. No, everyone has put in work. Everyone has put in some ideas. And there's creativity. There's sometimes hours and hours just to come up with a single move. And there we see something that hasn't taken Lei Tingjie hours, but just minutes. She's moved the rook to the b5 square.
Yeah, and giving such a long stare. Oof, yawning. Ju Wenjun is yawning. Yeah, not the most exciting endgame. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, they passed move 40. Draw offers are now allowed. But something tells me, and I also saw chat saying the same thing, something tells me there's not going to be a draw offer.
Right, as I played this game, okay, you are gonna be the one to offer a draw. I'm not doing this dirty work. Yeah, I'm waiting for you to offer a draw to finish this game. And Lei gave such a long stare to her opponent after rook b5, saying, okay, come on, make a move, offer a draw. I'm not gonna do this one.
Yeah, no, if I were white, I wanted to end the game quite quickly and I didn't want to offer a draw. I was thinking of playing g4. G4 and then just anticipate
but G4,
f5
you start, f5, exactly. You start to be like...
Exactly, pawn takes pawn.
Rook takes f5 and then you worry about this rook f4 and the pawn on h3 being weak. No, you don't want to make g4 just in case, it can backfire. The pawn on h3 is just weak after that. You don't want any extra weaknesses. If you want to make a draw, wait, king f3. Come on, we've been there. Rook d5, king d4. Here comes threefold repetition.
But the problem is that she could want, after king f3, she might want to go f5. And she'd go, you take a step backwards, go forward. And then I go forward some more. And the mind games continue. How to get that quick, easy draw. Difficult.
Right. But yeah, that's certainly things to avoid, to start trying to force a draw, because it can, just play one. I don't know, make moves. I was thinking about actually playing king d4 to make believe that the king is getting closer to the rook, or at least to have it on an active square in case black plays f5. But it just doesn't feel, after f5 or rook f5, it feels like you need to go back to e3.
Yeah,
and just to keep your
you have to look after these guys, because you don't want to get in a situation where you win the a5 pawn but you lose the g2 or h pawn, and then Lei Tingjie will be happy to enter that race. And a big yawn from
I'm going to yawn as well. Yawning epidemic.
But this is self-inflicted, June. Just open. Just when your opponent returns, just look at her and say draw, and she will say yes.
Yeah, yesterday I was surprised. I was so surprised to see her not play king f7, and just instead, going to this line and keeping her king on h7.
Yeah,
it felt so unnatural, but at the same time she just easily went to this line and made a draw. So
right. To me, it was a very, very strange decision as well when we were looking at it, and because I was been going, you put king f7, king f6,
never, would never allow king
f5. and the king was there on f5, and whoa, what is this? But then again, we don't know the full picture, because it could have been for some moment of blindness, she was completely fatigued and she just couldn't think, and then at some point or other, she just reached stage where she's what am I doing? I'll just put the king on h7 and just say this, and g4 played.
Yeah, she did play g4 after all.
Yeah, and after f5 check. Yes, the pawn on h3 is potentially weak, but a set of pawns have left the board, and this is still very much a textbook elementary draw, because black is tied down to the defense of a5, and if you can just hold the balance here on the king side, neither side can simply make progress.
Right. But I still expect f5 to be played. G takes f5, rook takes f5, threatening to give a check on f4, kind of forcing white to go away to e3, then king h5. And, you know, I have this idea of getting with the king to h4.
And f5 played. We are going to see it in operation. Pawn takes pawn. Rook takes pawn, and as Alexandra highlighted, danger alert for Ju Wenjun. You can't just move your king, for instance, to d4, because rook f4 is coming, and that is going to be a skewer, I think it's called. I always get my pins and my skewers mixed up. I was not paying attention when it came to the names in that class. And rook takes f5, king e3, taking a step back. And
king h5, and then king. Probably just king e2, rook e5, king f3, rook f5, something like that, like this perpetual that we've been looking for. Some moves already.
Maybe they can do it now, right? They can go rook e5 check. But maybe I'm being a bit too
but
harsh.
king h5 kind of feels like it
exactly.
I require white, you know, to make one more accurate move, because if you play king e4, then I won the game. Talking about miracles, right?
Yeah, you can't agree a draw was that trick. Still very much in the board. Yeah, I agree. Keep the game alive. And
exactly.
You're learning from the best
we're reading
here.
their minds easy. there are no secrets to us anymore. No secrets. So kind of very well prepared to play against Ju Wenjun and Lei. We know what to expect.
King e2. And now we are fully expecting Lei Tingjie to play rook e5 check, and the rook to keep
rook
checking.
c5, king f3, and then rook c3, rook c2. I mean, we can, at this point, I'm sure we can create many threefold repetitions to avoid those draw offers, but still to agree on a draw.
Maybe they don't know that they're allowed to offer a draw.
I'm sure they do by this time. But you know, if you offer a draw, you kind of lose this game of draw offers.
Okay, rook. Okay, now.
Yeah, here we go. Here we go. It's happening.
And okay, so everyone is asking, like, what is the reason to not offering a draw?
I like playing chess. I like playing chess. Make as many moves as you can.
It was, actually on that subject, some people have kind of made a personal and even some case public pledge that they are not going to offer draws, and they would rather the game finish in this threefold repetition. And there we see the players checking, and we have a handshake, and yes, game 10 finishes in a draw. There is still nothing that can separate these two. Ju Wenjun with the white pieces. She's the reigning 3-time Women's World Champion, but a challenger is toe-to-toe on the same score. And so everything could be decided in the final 2 games of the 12-game match. Wow, it's been an incredibly tense situation so far. Lei Tingjie will start game 11 with the white pieces. And Alexandra, what can we expect from Lei Tingjie?
Well, yes, it's getting we're getting there. We're getting to a possible tiebreak. The score is even, just 2 games to go. 2 games with classical control are left in this match, so the tension is just enormous. The pressure is there, and well, I'm looking forward to those final games. I'm not going to be commentating, but as I said earlier, I expect Lei to open her final game with the white pieces with e4. No reason to really change, since her opponent changing all the time, and it feels like a significant advantage for white at this stage. I don't know what opening we're gonna see, and well, that's exciting. Just 2 games and a possible tie-break. Of course, we keep our fingers crossed. Is there going to be I think tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, the International Chess Day, the players are going to celebrate, preparing for their final 2 games and a possible tie-break. So it's going to be a free day in the match tomorrow. And then,
And then everything will start to matter, as you pointed out. 2 games remaining, just 2 games. And then, as you say, tie breaks to decide everything. And take a look at the schedule. So tomorrow is a rest day for the players. I mean, this has been a very long event. The players must be exhausted by now. But on Friday, the action will pick up again as we see Lei Tingjie face off with her final set of white pieces against Ju Wenjun, and then the final classical game will take place on Saturday, July 22nd. And if the match is still tied, well, it means on Sunday tie breaks are the name of the game, as the players someone will be crowned women's world champion. And Alexandra, this is her final time commentating with you, and it's been an absolute privilege. It's been a real pleasure to hear your insights, your opinions, and of course it's been a lot of joy. And tomorrow is a free day, and I would also like to thank everyone at home for watching. But the big news is that the match is still at a gridlock. It is even. Everything will be decided in the final 2 games of classical chess. Will there be tie breaks? Well, you'll have to tune in on Friday at 9 a.m. Central European time, same place, to find out what exactly will happen. You don't want to miss this. And thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you.